In the dead of night, an old repair workshop was cluttered with various electrical appliances awaiting repair. Old tools hung on a mottled iron rack and the air was faintly tinged with the smell of motor oil. All right everyone, that's it for today. I'll finish the rest tomorrow. Signing off. Sumo put down the motor he had just repaired and turned off the live stream. He unhooked his work apron, hung it on the iron rack and stretched. He was in his early 20s, a junior majoring in mechanical engineering at Long Bay University of Science and Technology. Coming from a family with limited means, he had set up his own repair shop to earn money for tuition and living expenses. Using his college expertise, he fixed instruments and household appliances for individuals and also ran a live stream on the side. His live stream channel boasted the gimmick "I can fix anything" and had already gained 50 to 60,000 followers. Seeing that school was about to start in a week, he was still over 10,000 short on tuition and feared he wouldn't be able to save enough. The thought of his parents having to bow and scrape to borrow money left a bitter taste in his mouth. Beep, his phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the screen. It was a friend request. Figuring it was a client, he accepted it. The other party immediately called him via audio. "Is this Master Su?" A crisp voice came through after he answered. "Yes, what's up?" "Hello Master Su, I'm a fan of yours. My name is Hao Shuang. I've been watching your live stream every day lately. Your repair skills are incredible. Are you still taking orders?" "Yes, I am." "Awesome. Can you fix a tank 300? Hiss. Sumo's body jerked violently. 300 yuan to fix a tank. This wasn't a fan, this was a madman. Maybe it was a hater trying to troll him offline. Whatever it was, he couldn't let it ruin the "I can fix anything" reputation of his live stream. "Of course I can fix a tank, but as for the price? How about you name the price? I need to see how badly it's damaged first. Let's just say everything that could break did. It's a wreck. I'd buy a new one, but I'm attached to this old car. I need it urgently. I want it fixed and delivered in a week." At this point, Sumo felt like the girl might be serious. But what did he know about fixing tanks? He decided to offer an exorbitant price to scare her off. "All right, a special fan-exclusive one-time price of 3 million. Pay half upfront and the rest on delivery. If that's not okay, you'll have to find someone else." "Okay." As expected of a master who can fix anything, you talk differently from an ordinary mechanic. "I'll transfer the money to you now." Before Sumo could react, a pleasant notification sound rang in his ear. WeChat received 1.5 million yuan. Sumo's Adam's apple bobbed heavily. A numb feeling spread from his scalp. Maybe when the girl said 300, she meant 3 million all along. If he could really earn this 3 million yuan, he wouldn't have to worry about tuition ever again. He could improve his family's life and have his first pot of gold after graduation. He needed this money so badly. But what could he do if he didn't know how to fix a tank? "Master Su, why aren't you saying anything?" "Oh, I almost forgot. My tank has a lot of top-tier modifications and I need you to upgrade it during the repair. Reinforcement of the powertrain, suspension, etc. In short, I need it to be wild, brutal and worth every penny. Master Su, are you still there?" The girl's voice came through the phone again. The corner of Sumo's mouth twitched twice. He couldn't even repair it, let alone modify it. He should just refund the money. He couldn't become a fraudster, that was his bottom line. But the thought of the money in his account leaving again was agonizing. Who could understand this pain? Just as he was about to click refund. Ding, a crisp sound echoed in Sumo's mind. Detecting the host's intense desire to repair a tank. Deviant repair system bound successfully. Newbie gift pack delivered. It can be claimed at any time. Infernal engine assembly blueprint. Contains universal workbench LV. 11 of 500 research points. A flood of information surged into Sumo's mind. His heart started pounding wildly. "My precious system. You've come right on time." The system's usage was very simple. It could help the host repair and modify any high-tech equipment. The emotional fluctuations elicited from people by the repaired equipment would convert into repair points, which could be used to repair even more equipment. Life is looking up now. Sumo suppressed his inner turmoil. "I take this job. Great. Looks like we're in the same city. Give me your address and I'll have someone deliver the car to you." "Okay. Remember, it needs to be wild and brutal after the repair and modification. Get it done and shipped in 7 days. Don't worry, it's in the bag." After hanging up, a sharp glint flashed in Sumo's eyes. With the system, nothing would go wrong. This time, repairing the tank, he would firmly establish the golden brand of "I can fix anything." Half an hour later. A flatbed truck stopped outside the workshop. The driver pointed to a battle-damaged chassis and engine on the back. "Hey handsome, are you here to receive the goods? What's the last 4 digits of your phone number?" Sumo stood at the door dumbfounded by the scrap metal on the flatbed. Good heavens! This is what could happen to a tank. Was this salvaged from a battlefield? This wasn't a repair job, this was a complete rebuild. The outer armor was gone, the tracks were gone, the main cannon was gone, even the steering wheel was gone. All he could see with his naked eyes was just a chassis and an engine. Sumo looked at the flatbed driver. "Boss, the last 4 digits are 9,527. Unload the stuff into the warehouse next door." "All right." The flatbed truck had its own light lifting system. The unloading was done quickly and it drove away. Sumo entered the warehouse. This was the storage space he had rented along with his workshop for large odds and ends. Little did he expect it would come in handy now. With a thought, he extracted the system gift pack. With a loud boom, a 3-meter universal workbench appeared before him. "System, I'm counting on you. Go." Host requirements have been read. This repair will consume 400 research points. Relevant technological knowledge transfer in progress. Scanning materials. Scan complete. Material severely insufficient. Unable to proceed. Sumo finally realized that even with the help of the universal workbench he still needed materials. One cannot make bricks without straw. However, what delighted him was that his mind was now filled with unimaginable super-technological knowledge all related to this tank repair and modification. He hopped on his electric scooter and sped off to the nearest hardware wholesale market. Meanwhile, a Gulfstream G800 private jet flew from the Dragon Kingdom's capital toward the northern border. Hao Shuang leaned back in her soft custom-made leather seat. Under the cabin lights, her short silver hair shimmered with a crystalline halo. Her eyes were clear, her nose bridged straight. She wore a simple white t-shirt paired with ultra-short denim hot pants. Her long fair legs looked like they were straight out of a manga. Beside her, Chen Guozhang, his hair entirely white, looked at Hao Shuang. "Xiao Shuang, who were you on the phone with just now? Wild and brutal. A girl should be a bit more gentle. Grandpa in going to participate in the Shirashan Heroes meet. The parking lot collapsed and caught fire a while back. The tank 300 I won last year was severely damaged, so I'm paying Master Su to fix it. Is this Master Su reliable? How much is he charging? Has a reliable live streamer who says he can fix anything. Has only charging 3 million, which isn't much at all." Hao Shuang said this, ignoring her grandfather's astonished look. Her adorable big eye sparkled with light. "My cousins always say domestic cars aren't good. They prefer to modify Wranglers. Modifying any car costs a few million, not counting the 70 or 80,000 the car itself costs. Last year I modified a tank 300 for about 3 million and blew away my cousin's customized Wrangler. This year, with Master Su's modifications, I'm going to clean their clocks again." Chen Guozhang sighed inwardly. His granddaughter had been spoiled by her parents since she was a child. She spent money like water and even used a private jet for travel. The reason he was accompanying his granddaughter on this private jet trip was to make it in time for the upcoming Northern Border Army Equipment Exhibition. "Having been in military scientific research for most of my life, I can't miss this exhibition. Xiao Shuang, you've grown up. Grandpa won't say much more, but just be a bit more cautious and don't get scammed, all right?" Hao Shuang nodded. She thought for a moment, then took out her phone to send a WeChat message to Master Su. "Master Su, you can really fix the tank 300, right? Miss, you can rest assured. The price is very fair. I definitely can fix anything. Remember, I want it wild and brutal. Consider it done. I can pay more if you really need to. Really, dear patron." Sumo, now in Harbin City in the northern border, briefly reassured Hao Shuang without charging extra. He looked at the materials piled up in his warehouse. In just 1 hour he had already purchased all the materials. During that time he also rented a used pickup truck to haul the materials. This should be no problem now. Universal Workbench go. Ding, material scan complete. Universal Workbench LV1 activated. Ultra-large explosion impact load calculation complete. Quantum fire control array calibration complete. Modular armor system validation complete. Variable cycle engine afterburner rocket propulsion module calculation ended. This repair will take 6 days. Repairing. A series of cold mechanical voices echoed through the warehouse. The universal workbench emitted a sizzling sound. For retractable robotic arms began to move. They pre-processed the materials. The sparks from oxyacetylene cutting and laser welding turned the warehouse bright as day. The tank chassis and engine sent by Hao Shuang were slowly transformed under the workbench operation. Everything proceeded in an orderly fashion. Sumo watched the repair get on track and a smile spread across his face. Everything would depend on what happened 6 days from now. Sumo did not go home that night keeping watch beside the universal workbench. Though the machine was intelligent, it still required human assistance from time to time. To complete the repairs and modifications, he had to first use the workbench to manufacture second-tier intelligent lathes, alloy reactors and similar devices, an extremely tedious process. Only by dusk the next day did Sumo drag his exhausted body through the door and back home. His mother Wang Lan saw the bloodshot weariness in his eyes and was instantly filled with distress. "Xiao Mo, you pulled an all-nighter again. I've told you so many times you don't need to worry about tuition and living expenses. Mom, I already have a way. I can save up enough money." Sumo did not mention the matter of earning 3 million by repairing a tank. It was simply too outrageous. Saying it out loud would only stir up more trouble. He decided to speak only after the repairs were complete and the money was truly in hand. Wang Lan fell silent for a few seconds, sighed, then walked into the kitchen and brought out several dishes of food. "Go wash your hands and eat first." As Sumo ate, he glanced toward the inner room. "Where's Dad?" "Your dad went to do odd jobs with your Uncle Lee. He can earn 150 a day, and when the job is finished maybe he can even borrow a bit from your Uncle Lee. Xiao Mo, your dad and I talked it over. How about closing that repair shop of yours? We'll find our own way with the money. You just focus on your studies, graduate, and strive to find a good job." "Mom, I really do have a way to make money. I even took a big order yesterday. The tuition will definitely be covered, you'll see." All right, Mom believes you." After dinner, Sumo returned to his room. As he lay on the bed, drowsiness washed over him. A faint intermittent voice drifted from his mother's room. She was likely on the phone with his father. "Wife, I talked to old Lee today. After we finish the job, besides the 1,000 he'll pay me, he can lend me another 1,000. But it's still not enough for Xiao Mo's tuition and living expenses. Gold prices are high now. I still have that pair of earrings from when we got married. Tomorrow I'll go to a gold shop and see how much we can get for them. Xiao Mo told me today he has already saved enough. I know he just doesn't want us to worry. This child has been sensible since he was little. He's bound to amount to something in the future." Listening to his parents' conversation, Sumo dug his fingers into his palm, his gaze turning unfathomably deep. The next day he went to the warehouse. Seeing that the stock of materials was nearly exhausted, he drove his second-hand pickup out. For 5 consecutive days he remained this busy. Besides the hardware wholesale market, he also combed through every electronics mall. Each day as he watched the tank draw closer to the end of its repairs and modifications, excitement simmered ever stronger in his heart. By evening, a compact tank remote key was finally completed. Just then Hao Shuang sent a voice message asking about the repair progress. "Master Su, how's the repair going? Can you send me a photo? The repairs are going great, but there are commercial secrets in the workshop, so it's not convenient to take photos. Will you definitely be able to deliver by the 7th day? Yes. How's its passability? Is it durable enough, wild and violent enough? Sumo turned to look at the nearly fully formed heavy Sifi tank. His eye swept over the massive tracks, the sharply contoured modular armor, and the dark yawning rails of the electromagnetic cannon. Its passability is excellent, it's incredibly durable, and as for wild brutality, that's maxed out too. How's the power? Sumo's gaze fell on the variable cycle engine with its afterburning rocket propulsion module currently being hoisted into place. The power is unknown, yet the stronger the opponent, the stronger it becomes. That's good enough. The car key has already been made in advance. I'll send it to you first, keep an eye out for it. All right, Master Su. Another day passed deep into the night. The 1.5 million advance payment was almost entirely spent. Fortunately, there was no longer any need to purchase more materials. The tank was on the verge of having its repairs and modifications completed. Sumo dozed in a chair. A crisp chime rang beside his ear. Ding, tank repair and modification complete. Awaiting naming. Sumo's eyes snapped open, all drowsiness gone. He looked at the heavy tank parked in the center of the warehouse, a sharp light flickering in his pupils. How about calling it the Emperor Venom Blade Super Heavy Modular Megatron Transforming Tank? Feels a bit too long. Let's keep it simple and just call it the Venom Blade Tank. The next day was the final deadline for the repairs. Sumo quickly wrapped the Venom Blade tank tightly in a camouflage top, called in a heavy flatbed truck, and had it transported overnight according to the address Hao Shuang had given him. He planned to rest properly for a day or two, waiting for the final payment and the start of the school term. After 6 sleepless nights, he badly needed to catch up on sleep. By the following evening the flatbed driver called him. The Venom Blade tank had been unloaded as instructed in the self-driving play area of the Shalashan Desert. Sumo immediately messaged Hao Shuang the goods had been safely delivered. She should remember to pay the remaining balance after inspection. The next day several thousand off-road enthusiasts, small vendors and tourists gathered at the North's largest desert, Shalashan. This was a paradise for desert off-road lovers. Driving off-road vehicles to race freely across the dunes was exhilarating and satisfying, praised by everyone who had tried it. In the core area of the desert off-road zone, a hardened square the size of a football field had been built. At the center of the square stood a gigantic metal archway, its 6 bold characters strikingly prominent: Shalashan heroes meet. Near the archway at some unknown time a more than former turtle giant wrapped in camouflage torp had appeared. Some people guessed it was a model structure prepared by the organizers, serving as a landmark checking point that would be unveiled at the right moment. Around the square all kinds of off-road vehicles were parked, most of them modified. A stock Xiaomi YU7 pulled up near the archway with a small screech. Hao Shuang leaped down from the front passenger seat. Her denim jacket hung open, cargo pants tucked into high-top Martin boots. A few young people of similar age immediately crowded around her. Shuangzi, the hero's meet is about to start. What took you so long? Nice outfit, you've really got that desert cowgirl vibe. Girl, why are you driving this car? With that suspension chassis and those tires you won't even pass the first stage. Where's your champion tank from last year? Hao Shuang's beautiful eyes turned toward the last girl who had spoken. This was her elder cousin Hao Fangfang. Their family backgrounds were similar and they had grown up together, but later Hao Fangfang went to study in the Eagle Nation and became steeped in its culture. No sooner had Hao Fangfang finished speaking than she quickly added, "Oh. Sorry, I almost forgot, your champion tank was completely scrapped in that fire and garage collapse. Just as well. This time your brother-in-law Jack and I brought 2 cars. Both have been modified. I'll lend you one, no need to stand on ceremony between sisters." As she spoke she waved a hand behind her. Engines roared, drawing countless gazes from around them. 2 modified Wranglers braked sharply nearby. Hao Fangfang frowned slightly and shouted toward one of the vehicles, "Jack. Don't park next to those domestic Longwa cars, it's bad luck, park over here." The 2 cars simply drove straight up to stop right in front of Hao Shuang, almost in her face. Many nearby owners, seeing the vehicles, cast envious looks their way. Murmurs spread in low voices. Damn, those 2 builds are insane. Avenger hood climber long arm lift kit, front 6 rear for forged brake set. With this setup it can go anywhere short of the sky. From the sound of it the engines have been swapped too. No way this build cost less than $500,000. Capital has entered the game. Listening to the chatter around her, Hao Fangfang was clearly delighted. She patted the front hood of one of the vehicles. "Little sister, this Wrangler's powertrain, chassis, suspension and protection have all been heavily upgraded. It's a bit inferior to my other one over there, but still pretty impressive. You can go wild with this one these next few days. Domestic stuff is never any good. You've eaten coarse domestic grain long enough, time you sampled some foreign fine bran." It was the same old rhetoric again. Hao Shuang's ears had grown calloused from hearing it. "Cousin, you can drive it yourself. My champion tank 300 has already been repaired and should have been delivered long ago." Hao Fangfang's eyes flickered as she scanned the surroundings. "Really? Where?" Hao Shuang also peered around near the archway. According to what Sumo had said yesterday, it should be around here. After a full circle she spotted quite a few tank 300s, all lightly modified. Hers probably wasn't among them. Strange, it was delivered yesterday. Hao Fangfang curled her lips. "Cousin, stop being such a drama queen. Your car was severely damaged. Even if you hired the best repair shop in the US, it would take 2 months to fix. It's only been a week. There's no way any local repair or modification shop could have done it. Listen to your cousin, just drive mine." Hao Shuang searched the area over and over but couldn't find her modified tank. Many people around were staring at her. Her anxiety grew. She pulled out her phone and video called Sumo. It rang for a minute with no answer. She called again but no one picked up. Hao Fangfang's lips curled almost to the back of her head, a glint of schadenfreude in her eyes. "Little sister, you've been scammed. Who did you get to fix it?" "I asked Master Su. He can fix anything. He wouldn't lie to me." Hao Shuang said this, but doubt had already crept into her heart. Being laughed at by so many people in this circle was humiliating. Her fingers frantically typed and sent messages in Sumo's chat window. "Master Su, where did you put the car? You didn't actually fix it, did you? I trusted you so much, how could you deceive me? You big liar." Hao Fangfang's boyfriend Jack, a dark-skinned man, walked over in hip-hop style clothing and large sunglasses. His bald head was shiny with oil. He spoke in broken Chinese. "Hey sister? Later get in your brother-in-law's car. He'll teach you personally and show you what a performance beast is." Hao Shuang was frantic and had no time for Jack. Unable to contact Sumo, her eyes reddened with anxiety. Many acquaintances gathered around. They whispered and pointed. Someone said, "Shuangzi, maybe you should call the police. You've definitely been scammed. Consider it an expensive lesson." That Master Su you mentioned, Isnt, he that online streamer who claims he can fix anything. I've seen his videos. I can't believe you trusted someone like that. Everyone chimed in, including some middle-aged people, their tone full of reproach and blame. Hao Shuang's face turned grim. She wished she could crawl into a hole. Losing 1.5 million wasn't the issue, or the disgrace was the real blow. From now on the entire circle would gossip about her and mock her. It was mortifying. Her restless hands dug into her pockets in frustration. Beep beep, suddenly a sound rang out nearby, interrupting the chatter. The crowd turned to look. The sound came from the enormous model-like structure wrapped in camouflage tarpaulin. How could a model make a noise? It sounded like a car key's remote unlock. As everyone's attention shifted, Hao Shuang pulled out her car key, which she had accidentally pressed. Staring at the delicate key in her hand, then at the top-covered structure nearby, a bolt of lightning struck her mind. She swallowed hard. Her nerves tightened. Licking her lips, her thumb slowly hovered over the unlock button on the key. Her eyes locked onto the massive top-covered object. Beep beep, it sounded. Hao Shuang's heartbeat quickened. A sharp light burst from her dull pupils. Hao Fangfang and Jack also noticed Hao Shuang's actions. Both wore expressions of disbelief. Could this top-covered giant really be Hao Shuang's champion tank 300? But this thing looked like a model building. It was at least 4 meters tall. If it were really a modified car, what was that thick long thing at the front? Hao Fangfang hesitated. "Little sister, could this really be your tank 300? Fixed in a week and turned into this giant, can it even go off-road? Lift the top and let everyone see." Jack added, "It's probably some hack job by that clueless mechanic, a total sham." Hearing this, Hao Shuang's fleeting hope wavered with unease. She had no idea how Sumo had modified it, making it so huge, almost like a truck. Who modifies an off-road vehicle to this size? How could it possibly off-road? And with Sumo not answering calls or messages. Maybe it was just as Jack said. Seeing Hao Shuang hesitate, Hao Fangfang urged, "Little sister, who cares if it works? Just lift the top and let's see. Let everyone see what a domestic mechanic can do." Then she whispered in Jack's ear, "We're in for some fun." Hao Shuang's fists clenched and unclenched in her sleeve. Her face showed hesitation. Finally, she steeled herself and walked toward the top-covered giant. She was already the center of attention, a little more shame wouldn't hurt. Thousands of onlookers followed, all intensely curious about what lay beneath. Hao Fangfang urged again, "Hao Shuang, don't just stand there, hurry up and lift it." Jack was barely holding back laughter. "Sister, haha, come on, I promise I won't laugh, unless I can help it." Hao Shuang reached out and untied the tarp's ropes. She took 2 deep breaths, glanced at the thousands of eyes around her. No turning back. Grabbing the edge of the top, she yanked it down with all her might. Whoosh! The top slid down in the desert breeze. The silver-white sunlight poured onto what lay beneath. A fierce aura radiated outward. Shimmering light cascaded over the explosive, brutal body of the heavy tank. Countless light dots flickered on the gleaming armor modules. The angular turret pointed forward, its dark electromagnetic rail seemingly capable of devouring souls. The thick solid tracks left spiderweb cracks on the concrete ground. It was nearly 10 meters long, 5 meters wide and 4 meters tall. The desert pixel camouflage couldn't conceal its beastly presence. The oppressive aura of an alien warship hit the crowd. The visual impact was overwhelming. Standing beside it, people felt like tiny, pitiful ants. Countless onlookers gasped so sharply it felt like their lungs would burst, their eyes nearly popping out, tongues flying out of mouths and trembling like springs. The core area of Sholashan suddenly fell silent. Thousands of eyes were welded to the heavy tank, shock spilling from them. They wanted to scream, but their throats felt like they were filled with blades, unable to make a sound. Even breathing stopped. After more than 10 seconds, someone finally rasped out a cry. "Holy smokes! Shuangzi! This is the first time I've seen a tank 300 like this. This is basically a real tank. So cool it's insane." A cacophony of voices erupted. The air temperature climbed rapidly. The atmosphere was electric. Countless gazes turned toward Hao Shuang, now filled with awe. No one paid any further attention to the two modified wranglers. Some muttered under their breath, wondering who this Master Su who had repaired Hao Shuang's car really was. Hao Fangfang's face stiffened, her eyes wide with shock. Her mouth formed a perfect O. She stood utterly bewildered, her body swaying as if she might collapse at any moment. She seriously suspected her cousin had lost her mind. They had agreed on a Tank 300, but she had brought an actual tank, and one that looked so futuristic. What off-road vehicle could compare to this? Jack's smile vanished as he steadied Hao Fangfang. His expression resembled an autumn plant, dark with a tinge of purple. His eyes darted around, lost in thought. Hao Shuang slowly raised her hand, caressing the tank's side armor. The icy touch made her heart leap into her throat. She then touched the hard tracks, feeling as if she could be ground to dust in an instant. Master Su, is there some mistake? Is this really my champion Tank 300? Jack's expression shifted as if a thought struck him. He suddenly slapped Hao Fangfang's thigh. Slap? I get it. This tank must be a model. At his words, Hao Fangfang momentarily forgot the pain in her thigh. Her expression shifted repeatedly before her furrowed brow relaxed. She nearly shouted, exactly. That explains it. There's no tank this big in the world. Even if it were being developed, it would require national-level scientific research. How could a lousy mechanic from Dragon Country build something like this? Many onlookers nodded in agreement. Someone remarked, there's no such tank in the world. It's probably just something the mechanic imagined. Maybe it's just an empty shell with speakers inside. Regardless, it looks really cool. If only it were real. What's the use of good looks? It's just for taking photos and checking in. It can't actually go off-road. Hearing these words, Hao Shuang looked up again, surveying the entire tank. What they said made some sense. Yet as she touched the tank's tracks and armor, she felt a sense of reality. Hao Fangfang's voice dripped with sarcasm. Sis, hasn't your key already unlocked the door? Want to go inside and take a look? Jack chimed in, the key is probably just a prop. This tank doesn't have a door. What's there to unlock? Unless this empty shell has a vertical entrance on the turret like a real tank. Hao Shuang's eyes flickered. She swiftly climbed the tracks to the top of the tank. Indeed, she saw a vertical flip-up hatch. She reached for the handle and gave it a gentle tug. Click! The hatch opened automatically, revealing a pitch-black interior. Hao Fangfang urged, sis, go in and take a look yourself. There are too many of us to go in. Let's video call so everyone can see. Hao Shuang took a deep breath, held it, and descended the ladder bit by bit. As an outdoor and off-road enthusiast, she was in excellent shape, full of athletic energy. Climbing was a breeze. But as her body sank into the darkness of the tank's cockpit, her anxiety grew. Her heart felt like 10,000 horses were galloping within her chest. Beep, a prolonged chime sounded above her head. The cockpit lights automatically activated, illuminating the space like a tide. It was more spacious than she had imagined. Two futuristic semi-enclosed zero-gravity seats appeared before her. Looking past them, the central console was covered in buttons and indicator lights. Hao Shuang felt as if she had entered the cockpit of an alien starship surrounded by high technology. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. She suspected it was all an illusion. But when she reached out, she could feel everything. The tank's vertical hatch was still open and voices drifted in from outside. Shuang. How is it in there? Why aren't you saying anything? Maybe it's so ugly she's speechless. I told you it's probably just a shell with speakers. The inside probably looks pathetic. Then Hao Fangfang's voice chimed in, sis, how about a video call so we can see? Don't worry, we won't lie. Hao Shuang was about to respond when her phone suddenly rang. She thought it was Hao Fangfang calling, but it was Su Mo. She had a stomach full of questions, so she quickly answered. Su Mo's urgent voice came through. Hello? Ms. How? I've been fixing your car for days without proper rest. I was trying to take a nap, but you kept calling. The tank is delivered modified exactly to your specs. I even prepared a little surprise for you. Who are you calling a liar? You're not trying to weasel out of the final payment, are you? Let me tell you, you have to pay the balance or you'll never let this go. Su Mo's spittle practically flew through the phone and onto Hao Shuang's face. Her expression twisted in disbelief. Looking at the dazzling array of technological devices in the cockpit, she struggled to find words. Suppressing her shock, she said weakly, no. Master Su. I'm not trying to avoid payment. I just want to ask, is there a possibility that the Tank 300 is supposed to be an off-road vehicle? Who? Silence fell on both ends of the call. The air grew still. After a few seconds, Su Mo's voice lost its edge, becoming much gentler, even tinged with an awkward chuckle. Well, An off-road vehicle and a tank are basically the same thing. A tank can go off-road too. Broadly speaking, calling it an off-road vehicle isn't entirely wrong. Besides, let me ask you, is it wild enough? Hao Shuang scratched her temple, recalling the tank's extravagant design. Very wild. Then let me ask you again, is it violent enough? Hao Shuang thought of the tank's terrifying electromagnetic rail cannon and her voice trembled. Very violent. Good. How's its off-road capability? Is it durable? Hao Shuang's face twitched violently. Tank tracks naturally have the best off-road capability. It's covered in armor, so it's definitely durable. There you go. Is the power strong? I haven't tested the power yet. The power is guaranteed to be top-notch. With Super Start it goes from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Everyone who's tried it says it's great. That's all. Transfer the balance to me and enjoy your ride. Oh, and if you don't know how to drive it, there's a manual on the driver's seat. Ah. All right. Hao Shuang felt dizzy. No matter how she looked at it, this tank had been heavily modified and repaired. She also bore some responsibility for not communicating clearly. She hung up and transferred the final payment. Beep beep beep. Her phone received a video call request. It was Hao Fangfang calling from outside, probably out of patience. Hao Shuang didn't overthink it and answered. The phone's camera panned across the cockpit. Outside the tank, Hao Fangfang unfolded her Samsung foldable phone, trying to show the screen to the crowd as large as possible. She added a touch of sarcasm. Take a look, everyone. This is the SoCal tank. Isn't it? She stopped mid-sentence, her voice dying out. Her expression froze. Her eyes widened as big as brass bells. She and everyone around her saw the interior of the cockpit displayed on the screen. Various incomprehensible high-tech devices and structures continuously emerged. Even a single chair felt extraordinarily luxurious. The indicators on the control panel resembled those from a sci-fi film. Even the simplest streamlined lighting made one's skin crawl. If it weren't for the fact that the person on the other side of the video was seen entering the cockpit, one would not be able to help but think it was a special effect. Hao Fangfang felt her eyes might be playing tricks on her, constantly rubbing her eyeballs, nearly damaging her retina, yet the visuals became increasingly shocking. Next to her, Jack wore an exaggerated look of surprise common among people. It was as if he had seen Columbus. He mumbled indistinctly. Who lays here? God, could this really be a tank? No, this is just too unreal. Hao Fangfang came back to her senses, her hair slightly disheveled with red veins creeping across her eyes. Each word resonated firmly. I don't believe it. This must just be a facade. To fix a scrap tank like this in less than 7 days, even the most brilliant scientists of the Eagle Nation couldn't do it. How could anyone in the Dragon Country achieve this? This tank absolutely cannot be started. Though they said this, the familiar faces and onlookers around felt a sense of authenticity from the visuals. Someone shouted loudly, "Shuangzi, start the tank." More people joined in the raucous cheers. Start! 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 In the end, thousands of people were shouting at the top of their lungs. The atmosphere on-site escalated to an unprecedented intensity. The air temperature became tense. The roar resonated, causing Hao Shuang inside the cockpit to feel her ears buzzing. With the atmosphere reaching such heights, Hao Shuang could not refuse. She plopped down in the driver's seat, tossing a thick driving manual into the passenger seat. Her bright eyes fixed on the one-button start button on the control panel, eager to try. Seeing this situation, the people outside shouted even harder. Start! Start! Hao Fangfang gripped her foldable screen phone tightly, veins popping on the back of her hand. Her gaze turned fierce. My dear cousin, do you really think a stinky mechanic could build you a tank in 7 days? Clown! As soon as her voice fell, everyone held their breath, staring intently at the phone screen with slightly trembling gazes. They saw Hao Shuang's delicate hand extend a finger and fiercely poke the one-button start button. Click! 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Several seconds passed. The surroundings fell silent, nothing happened. Hao Fangfang's tense expression suddenly relaxed, wiping the sweat from her forehead. She grinned. See, I told you it was just a facade. The camera captured Hao Shuang's relieved smile. In fact, she had always doubted whether this tank was a model of craftsmanship. Now it was proven to be just that. However, she held no grudge against Master Su. This was the first time she had seen such a cool and realistic model, and spending 3 million was truly worth it. Facing the phone camera, Hao Shuang waved her hand gently. A hint of subtle disappointment glimmered in her eyes. That's enough, everyone disperse. The crowd around the tank sighed or shrugged, dispersing in different directions. Hao Fangfang and Jack exchanged a knowing smile, both with a hint of mockery in their eyes. Jack, let's get to our own car. What's so great about a model? Yes. This is just mind-numbingly boring. Just as the two took a couple of steps, a crisp, cold voice suddenly sounded from the still-running phone video. Driver scan completed, feature registration completed, driving permission verification pass starting for the first time. Coolant infusion completed, control valve opened, quantum phased radar activated, high-energy weapon system mounted, hydrogen-powered cyclic engine started. Boom, boom, boom. The interior of the tank erupted with deafening roars. The heavy sound waves instantly threatened to shatter countless hearts. The crowd that had scattered suddenly turned around, their incredulous gazes fixed on the tank in the center. It seemed the tank emitted an invisible yet palpable aura of slaughter. An ancient beast awakened for a moment of hunting. There was a sense that no one present would escape. Some timid individuals trembled uncontrollably as if dancing a certain hot-footed dance. Hao Fangfang's eyes were filled with dread. Her eye sockets darkened and sank in. Her mouth was dry and cracked. Her throat felt as if filled with sand. Her voice became strange and distorted, screaming, "No, no, no. Everyone, don't be fooled. This is the sound emitted by the speakers. If this is real, I'll eat the archway of the heroes gathering." As she spoke, strange changes appeared in the cockpit. A vast virtual image was projected in front of the driver's position. The main screen in the center displayed the external images ahead of the tank. Hao Shuang looked over as if she could see through the tank's armor, gaining a perspective. The virtual screen on the side displayed a menu and toolbar featuring various option buttons. Hao Shuang's eyes sparkled with excitement, her blood rapidly heating within her. She never expected that this tank truly had a powerful engine. Furthermore, this virtual touch interface was incredibly siffy, surpassing even a Fanda. She breathed rapidly like a bellows, unable to suppress the impulse to slam on the gas pedal. The cockpit and outside still reverberated with the cold mechanical voice growing increasingly urgent. L5 level auxiliary driving system activated, full vehicle self-check completed, hatch closed, test path planning completed, please fasten your seatbelt, countdown to launch initiated, 10, 9, 8. Each crisp sound struck like the death knell, heavily tolling on the backs of countless heads. A chilling sensation surged from the soles of her feet straight to the crown of her head. Anyone could tell that this roar of the dragon-like engine was definitely not a sound mimicked by speakers. By the strength of the sound, it was at least 10,000 times more ferocious than a V12. Some might believe it was a J20 turbofan's roar. Hao Fangfang said it was the speakers, clearly in denial. Moreover, the hellish cold countdown sent chills down one's spine. There was an ominous sensation that something big was about to happen. An older off-road enthusiast keenly sensed something amiss and shouted hoarsely to those around him. "Quick, step aside. Anyone who doesn't want to die, stay away from here. Run! Run!" The shouts awakened the dazed onlookers. Everyone fled like a terrified flock of sheep. The countdown finally reached its end. Those fleeing couldn't help but look back. 3, 2, 1. Toxic blade heavy tank launch. The moment the sound fell, Hao Shuang slammed the gas pedal into the engine. The terrifying acceleration thrust her back into the soft seat, embedding her in it. The blood in her body rushed to her back, almost bursting out of her pores. Her vision blurred due to insufficient blood supply? Wow, this is so intense. The roar of the tank's engine surged, drowning out her voice. The tracks reached peak speed in an instant. The chain seemed ready to fly off. The tracks and the concrete ground scraped at high speed, sparking a dazzling array of sparks. The toxic blade tank shot out like a cannonball, carrying Hao Shuang away, leaving behind a trail of residual shadows. Null. Under the gaze of the crowd, the poisoned blade tank sped across the desert under Hao Shuang's reckless driving, kicking up clouds of sand and stones behind it. It was as if an extreme sandstorm had erupted. The air was thick with the scent of sand. Some people focused on the astonishing siffy visuals inside the poisoned blade tank's cockpit, while others gazed into the distance to witness the breathtaking scene of the tank racing forward. Everyone could feel that after exiting the sandy obstacle course, the tank's speed was increasing rapidly, making it hard for their eyes to keep up. Someone in a daze muttered, "What speed is this big guy going now? It feels like it's treating the desert like a highway. At least over 100 km/h. No way. Definitely more than that." While a few were discussing, Hao Fangfang suddenly saw something on her phone screen and trembled. It seemed she had seen something terrifying. "What is that?" A person beside her followed her gaze. The screen displayed the cockpit visuals, where a menu of options was outlined at the edge of the virtual projection panel, and at the bottom of the menu a dynamic set of data was pulsating within a blue bordered table. Jack stammered out the data in his somewhat halting Chinese. His voice grew louder until he was nearly shouting at the top of his lungs. "Current driving mode beginner. Engine RPM 200000 RPM. Hiss, both Hao Fangfang and the densely packed onlookers gasped in astonishment. One person with a crazed expression exclaimed the maximum RPM of an F1 car is only 15000 RPM. This engine's current RPM is over 10 times that of an F1 car. And it's still increasing rapidly. It's already at 250,000 RPM. Crazy. This isn't an engine, it's a poison dragon drill. Jack, not knowing when, also began to twitch intermittently, much like the person next to him, Wu Lauer, as he continued to mumble about the dynamic data from the virtual projection table. Current speed 210 km/h. Oh my god. Hao Fangfang and those around her witnessed the data with their own eyes. Some were rubbing their eyes vigorously while others trembled uncontrollably, their knees feeling as if they were going to shake apart. A tank this large can reach 210 km/h in the desert. This is truly unbelievable. No wonder our eyes can't keep up. It's already going this fast. If it were on the battlefield, the enemy's shells might not even catch up. This is a war artifact. Hao Fangfang's expression constantly shifted, pale with a hint of green and black. Her face twitched like that of a Shar-Pei. With such a large tank going this fast, the fuel consumption must be astronomical. It might run out of fuel soon. Before she could finish, Jack tugged at her shirt. He hesitated, then couldn't help but quietly say, "Dear, you should take a look at the end of that virtual projection table." Hao Fangfang looked towards the end of the table, her pupils abruptly shrinking to pinpoints, trembling rapidly in her eye sockets. Her breath caught. Her heart stopped beating. With her last ounce of strength, she squeezed out a few words through clenched teeth. Fuel remaining 99. 999. Current range 5,500 kilometers. By the end her eyes rolled back and she fainted. The crowd hurriedly supported her. Some pinched her to bring her to, others slapped her face. Fangfang, what's wrong? You aren't dying, are you? Wake up quickly. Amidst a flurry of loud wake-up calls, Hao Fangfang slowly opened her eyes as if returning from the dead. Her face still showed no color. Since the video was on, the sounds from here were also heard by Hao Shuang in the Poison Blade's cockpit. Especially upon hearing that the big cousin was suddenly dying, he hastily turned the steering wheel toward Hero Conference Square. Hao Shuang had played off-roading for 2 years but had never felt this exhilarating. Although the outside was noisy, the tank's interior was relatively comfortable. Even when crossing some obstacles, she felt no significant bumps in her seat. This was the true zero-gravity seat. And this virtual projection panel was incredibly useful. It felt as if it had given her a pair of X-ray glasses with absolutely no blind spots in her field of vision. Even when she turned her head to look sideways, a virtual projection similar to a review mirror would appear synchronously, allowing her to see everything clearly behind her. It was not an exaggeration to say that this was the coolest vehicle she had ever driven. Under Hao Shuang's control, the Poison Blade tank finally drove back to the Hero Conference Activity Center Square. Thousands of people gathered here looked up at the impending sandstorm as well as the small black dot in the front, all feeling a sense of dread. Run, the sandstorm is coming. Don't come over here. It's going to crash into us. Withdraw your supernatural powers. Amidst the cries of alarm, the Poison Blade tank finally arrived. The roar of its powerful engine drowned out everything. Its massive body plunged into the Hero Conference Square like an arrow. Debris flew from the concrete ground and the raging wind swept across, wreaking havoc everywhere. Many people were so frightened that they covered their eyes. Hair and clothes flew wildly in the wind. Boom! A thunderous sound shook the heavens, and then everything fell silent. A gentle breeze blew, dispersing the sand and dust. People swallowed hard, scanning their surroundings. They saw the aftermath of the Poison Blade tank at the archway. The once towering archway had been smashed into 2 sections, completely collapsed. Everyone cautiously gathered closer. Hao Fangfang and Jack supported each other as they approached. After getting a closer look at the crash site, they were left speechless. The scene surpassed their comprehension once again. The nearly 20-meter-high giant steel archway crumbled under the impact of the Poison Blade tank, disintegrating like paper, utterly unable to withstand the blow. Yet the tank itself had not even lost a single piece of its paint. Truly, it was a tank incredibly sturdy. No tank in the world today could be this resilient. Click! The top hatch of the tank opened and Hao Shuang poked her small head out. Big cousin, how are you? Are you all right? Hao Fangfang, who was already in a state of distress, felt blood well up in the corners of her mouth at this remark, forcing a pale smile. Cough, cough. Don't worry, I'm fine. Nonsense, you're bleeding. You need to get to the hospital quickly. Should I drive you? It's very fast. Hao Shuang said, patting the tank's turret. Hao Fangfang's eyes twitched, her expression darkening. I truly thank you. No need. Hao Fangfang finished and didn't want to stay here a second longer. She grabbed Jack and turned to leave. Onlookers quickly took out their phones to take photos and record videos to post online, not wanting to miss out on this trending opportunity. Once the video was posted, it attracted massive traffic. News of the alien tank appearing at the Hero conference spread like wildfire. Hao Shuang looked at the archway that had been broken by the tank and felt a bit apprehensive. Just now the tank had autonomously recognized the situation and actively avoided hitting people, which was why it crashed into the archway. If the tank hadn't been intelligent enough, a much larger accident could have occurred. If only she had read the manual first or figured out the basic driving rules before operating it. She sighed and contacted the organizers of the Hero conference to discuss compensation matters. On the other side, in the northern region Harbin, in an old industrial area, a dilapidated repair shop, Sumo heard a voice ringing continuously in his ears. Received shock emotions? Research points 2, research points 5, research points 3. The continuous accumulation of research points filled Sumo with ecstasy. With research points he could repair more things. Recalling the phone call from Hao Shuang just now, he felt a hint of regret. It was all his fault for being utterly ignorant of civilian vehicles, having botched the repair. After all the fuss, the Tank 300 turned out to be a civilian off-road vehicle. Fortunately, he managed to fudge his way through and the client was kind enough to settle the final payment. No trouble had arisen. Having earned some money, Sumo transferred a portion back home. His parents inquired about the source of the funds. It took a great deal of persuasion to brush them off. Sometimes explaining things clearly could lead to even more problems. School was starting tomorrow, so Sumo decided to savor his last moments of leisure. He planned to attend classes for a while longer before finding a plausible reason to suspend his studies, dedicating all his energy to repairs. The reason he hadn't immediately dropped out was twofold. He couldn't explain it to his parents, and he still had good friends like Wang Fei and Dao Xiaosu at school wanting to experience college life a bit longer. Sumo pulled out his phone, opened the Douyin app and casually scrolled through the screen. A familiar image appeared before his eyes and his gaze stiffened. Good heavens, miss, how you actually took a tank off-roading. In the video, that sleek ultra-heavy tank sped across the desert, kicking up a storm of yellow sand, looking incredibly cool. The video had only been posted for a few minutes, yet it already had tens of thousands of likes. Sumo scrolled further and the next video was even more absurd, several pictures of a tank crashing through a massive steel arch. Just as he was about to check the comments, his phone screen went black. This 1,000 yuan phone, which he had used for 3 years, had a battery that couldn't hold a charge and a system that was unbearably laggy. He wasn't sure if it had frozen or run out of power. Sumo frowned slightly and said calmly, "Universal Workbench, repair it." Half an hour later, the phone repair and upgrade was complete. The materials used were leftover scraps from the tank. After the upgrade, the phone's processor performance was explosive and the system was as smooth as silk. Its appearance was quite futuristic, with a screen-to-body ratio close to 100%. The screen's hardness had also been reinforced. In terms of information security, it was taken to the extreme. No one could track or monitor his phone. The battery life was terrifying. A 10-minute charge could last a month. The only downside for Sumo was that it consumed 50 research points. These were earned through blood and sweat. After the repair, Sumo happily resumed scrolling through short videos. The Poison Blade tank was rapidly gaining popularity across the internet, and his reputation as someone who fixes everything was sure to take off. Meanwhile, preparations for the Northern Border Harbin Army Equipment Exhibition were in full swing. The exhibition boasted an impressive array of participants. A multitude of new equipment from various military research institutions, big and small, would fill the massive 160000 square meter venue to capacity. Among the most eye-catching star equipment were the Type 99C main battle tank, the Lynx II, the Red Arrow 17 anti-tank missile vehicle, the Z-21 attack helicopter, various models of drones and loitering munitions, new individual weapons, and countless others. The exhibition's director Li Weidong looked somewhat aged but spoke with a strong, resonant voice. Dressed in a crisp Zhongshan suit, he commanded respect without needing to be stern. Under his efficient coordination, half of the army equipment had already been moved in. His murky eyes fixed on the empty main exhibition stand in the center of the venue, he frowned and muttered to himself, "Why hasn't it been delivered yet?" With that, he pulled out his phone and made a call. "Hey, Xiao Ding, why hasn't the custom-made second-generation Chengying model arrived yet? The exhibition starts tomorrow." "Mr. Li, this model is different from the usual ones. It's not only large in size, but we're also meticulously polishing every detail. We're still working on it, trying to deliver and set it up before the exhibition opens tomorrow." "Not trying, it's a must." "Yes sir, well, get it done." Hanging up the phone, a voice rang out not far away. "Old Li." Li Weidong's gaze shifted, looking toward the main entrance of the venue. An elderly figure appeared in his sight. The familiar sight brought a smile to his face. Old Chen. Oh my. The two men, both nearly 70, were delighted to see each other and hurried forward. They shook hands firmly. Old Chen, weren't you researching the intelligentization of ground combat tanks? Why the sudden visit? You didn't even give me a heads up so I could come to greet you. Old Li were brothers from the same dormitory, no need for such formalities. When I was on my way here, I was wondering which old acquaintance would be in charge. Never expected it to be you. Haha, let's go well chat in the lounge. The two hit it off immediately and walked side by side toward the lounge. Nearby subordinates whispered among themselves. Who is this old man? Mister? Li is usually so stern but has like a different person around him. Wow, you didn't recognize Mr. Chen Guozhong. Look at all this army equipment around us, more than half of it uses Mr. Chen's research technology. Mr. Chen and our Mr. Li are hailed as the titans of Dragon Country's army equipment field. Most of the on-site staff were young officers from military academies or units who had been transferred to help. They all looked at the two elders with deep respect. As the two elders settled into the lounge and chatted for a bit, Mr. Li's phone suddenly rang a few times. Thinking it might be another issue with the exhibition setup, he opened his phone and saw a flash of astonishment in his eyes. This is? What's wrong? Mr. Chen asked, puzzled, looking at Mr. Li? Look at this. The phone was placed on the coffee table. It was a video and some pictures sent by a subordinate. In the video, a massive tank sped across the desert as if it were flat ground. Mr. Chen's expression shifted slightly, then returned to normal as he joked, Old Li, you old fool, are you getting senile? This must be a visual effect from a video. Don't make a fuss. Before his voice faded, a message popped up in the chat window. The technical department has determined that the video has not been processed with visual effects. The two elders exchanged glances, their expressions turning serious. The atmosphere grew tense. They played the video again. A few seconds featured a Zoarmadin shot that revealed the tank's shape and some details. Mr. Chen's expression was grave, his voice much steadier. Old Li, did you see its turret structure and the way the track modules are connected? This structure is exactly the optimal layout for future tanks that our strongest tank research teams have been debating. Logically, everything is still in the discussion phase with some technical hurdles yet to be overcome. How could a physical prototype suddenly appear? Li Weidong crossed his arms, thought for a couple of seconds, then snapped his gaze to Mr. Chen. Do you think it's possible that some research institute broke through the technical barriers, kept it quiet, and secretly built a finished product? Mr. Chen slapped his thigh and exclaimed in realization that must be it. It's definitely the Southern Border Ordnance Machinery Manufacturing Institute. They're the fastest in terms of research progress right now. I'll call them right now. He immediately dialed. The call connected and a middle-aged voice answered on the other end. Mr. Chen, hello? Is there something you need? Xiao Liu, I'm asking you, has your institute made a technological breakthrough in new tank development? Ah. To be honest, we have indeed made some progress recently. News travels fast, you've heard before we even reported it. Mr. Chen's mouth twitched and he said in a heavy tone, the testing video of your new tank has already spread all over the internet and you still need to report it. Going to some hero gathering to test it, getting watched by so many people, it's utterly reckless. Don't you know this is a serious leak of classified information? Who? That's not right, Mr. Chen. Our tank technology has only broken through in part, we haven't even built a finished product yet. Are you sure you're not mistaken about something? Hearing this, Mr. Chen's tone softened slightly. Really, it's not you. Goodness, Mr. Chen, I understand the principle of confidentiality. How could I make such a low-level mistake? I swear it's not us. All right, let's leave it at that. Mr. Chen hung up the phone, his expression growing even more puzzled. Throughout Dragon Country, the only research teams capable of building a new generation tank at this stage were the Southern Border Ordnance Machinery Manufacturing Institute and his own team. It couldn't possibly be him. Li Weidong looked at Mr. Chen suspiciously. Old Chen, could it be that you made it? Mr. Chen shot him a glare. Of course not. Unable to figure it out, the two elders turned their attention back to the phone. Remembering there were two more pictures to look at, they swiped through them one by one. The first picture was a close-up of the electromagnetic rail on the tank's turret. Blue arcs of electricity rippled through the air as if they might leap out of the image at any moment, sending a chill down one's spine. The two elders felt their hearts skip a beat, their mouths dry. As experts in the field, they knew exactly what this was. Old Lee, could your technical department have made a mistake? If this isn't a visual effect, it's too absurd. This goes beyond the scope of the next generation tank. Impossible. Judging whether a video or image has been photoshopped or enhanced with effects shouldn't be wrong. Mister? Chen gently swiped the screen to look at the next picture. The moment he saw it, his expression drastically changed and his eyes bulged like light bulbs. His gaze was filled with absurdity and exasperation. Li Weidong's neck seemed to creak as he turned stiffly to Mr. Chen. Old Chen stopped pretending. You say it's not you? Take a look at who this young lady is. Mister? Chen was also dumbfounded. His wrinkled face twisted into a knot. In the picture, a delicate little head poked out of the tank's cockpit, caught perfectly by the photographer. What? Stunned for a couple of seconds, Chen didn't say another word as he picked up the phone, found Hao Shuang's number and dialed. The call connected and Hao Shuang's voice sounded. Grandpa, are you done so soon? Are we heading back together? Xiao Shuang, Grandpa wants to ask you something. You must answer seriously, no hiding anything. All right. All right, what's wrong? Why so serious? What did you do today? Did you drive a tank? Ah. Grandpa, I just got out of the cockpit and you already know. But Master Su said that tank could loosely be called an off-road vehicle. Off-road vehicle? Before Grandpa Chen lay Old Lee's phone, the screen frozen on the sharp, domineering, siffy exterior of the poison blade tank. This thing can be called an off-road vehicle. Is there something wrong with this, Master Su's thought process? Xiao Shuang, this tank of yours? Off-road vehicle, how's its performance? Hearing this, Hao Shuang's tone on the other end grew slightly excited, her exhilaration palpable even through the screen. Grandpa, this vehicle is insane. It accelerates from 0 to 100 km/h in under 3 seconds. I hit 210 km/h on the desert just now, and sitting in the zero-gravity seat I barely felt any bumps. Oh, and this tank is incredibly tough. It smashed through that thick steel arch and came out completely fine. Listening to his granddaughter's excited account, Grandpa Chen's breathing grew rapid. Though he struggled to control his expression, the emotion in his eyes was undeniable. Beside him, Old Lee had unknowingly tensed up, itching to snatch the phone and verify everything himself. If it were true, it would be utterly astonishing. Grandpa Chen immediately said, Xiao Shuang, cover that tank with something right away and have it shipped to me as fast as possible. I'll send you my location. All right. If I arrange for a car carrier now, it should arrive by tomorrow morning at the latest. I'll tell the driver to hurry. Good. If anyone asks you about it, just say you know nothing. Got it. After giving his instructions, Grandpa Chen hung up. He looked at Old Lee beside him and the two exchanged glances, both feeling a sense of unreality. They didn't know if Xiao Shuang's words were true or false, but once the tank was delivered and they saw it with their own eyes, they would know. If it were real, it could mean a qualitative leap in the nation's military technology. It seemed there might indeed be hidden masters among the civilians. The last industrial survey hadn't been thorough enough. There were fish that slipped through the net. Old Lee also understood now. It appeared Grandpa Chen truly was unaware. After a moment of thought, he said, Old Chen, should we send someone to receive it? If it's just shipped directly, could something go wrong on the way? Grandpa Chen shook his head. In our country, nothing will go wrong. Besides sending people to receive and escort, it would only attract the attention of certain spy organizations and stir up even more public opinion online. I need to contact Professor Gao later to issue a nationwide debunking, otherwise we won't be able to explain this to the public. Old Lee nodded. That's right. Wait, Professor Gao. Not Director Zhong. Grandpa Chen shot Old Lee a look. Director Zhong has retired. The second-generation director now active in the Strategic Deception Bureau is Professor Gao. The two elders discussed the tank in the photo for a while longer. Half an hour later, an issue arose at the exhibition site. Old Lee went out to coordinate and Grandpa Chen followed to help. The exhibition hall was a single story with a massive footprint. It was surrounded by a 15-meter-high canopy, but the central area was open to the sky, reserved for the Fangji 21 flight demonstration. Blazing sunlight poured down, scorching the workers' faces as sweat streamed down. The day ended, the bright moon hung high, and finally the work was done. Almost all the exhibited army equipment had been brought in. Only the largest central display platform remained empty. Grandpa Chen asked in confusion, Old Lee, what's going on that central platform? Old Lee smiled mysteriously. You'll find out tomorrow. With that, he sent another message to Xiao Ding urging him to finish the item and ship it over quickly. Xiao Ding replied saying that barring any accidents it would be delivered early tomorrow morning, just in time for the exhibition's opening. Meanwhile, Hao Shuang was already on a chartered flight to Harbin. This year's Shalashan Heroes Meet had been ended before it even began, all because of her poison blade tank. Now many people online were talking about her. There was no point in staying any longer. She didn't want to be the center of attention. Leaning back in the business class seat on the plane, she scrolled through short videos on her phone only to find several clips featuring her face. These netizens are something else. How come none of them blur my face? Unbelievable. As she was speaking, the Douyin app suddenly popped up with a live stream notification. Hao Shuang let out a soft sound of surprise. Professor Jiao, why is he suddenly going live so late at night? She clicked into the stream. In a brightly lit office, Professor Jiao sat calmly at his desk with a benevolent expression. Before him lay a steaming cup of tea and a tablet computer. As the stream began, Professor Jiao said nothing, merely swiping on the tablet, presumably reviewing some materials or preparing for the upcoming broadcast. 2 minutes later, over 1,000,000 viewers had flooded into the stream and its popularity had skyrocketed to the top of the live streaming charts. Such was Professor Gao's immense influence. Seeing that the time was right, Professor Jiao cleared his throat. He looked into the camera and greeted with a smile, "Hello everyone, I'm your old friend Professor Jiao." Hao Shuang was also a fan of the professor and immediately joined the netizens in spamming the comments. "Good evening, Professor. It's been a while, Professor. You've got some white hair now. You're actually working today. Last time you fooled the white elephant. Who's the unlucky fool today?" Unfazed by the enthusiastic comments, Professor Jiao said with a straight face and a serious tone, "Everyone knows about the alien tank video circulating online, right? I started this stream specifically to talk about that matter. Here I solemnly tell you all, after an assessment by our technical department, those videos and images are confirmed to be fan-made hoaxes. They're all photoshopped." His few words triggered an explosion of comments across the screen. "Professor, I don't believe you. Images can be faked, but videos can't. I was at the Shalashan scene myself. That broken steel arch still hasn't been repaired. How do you explain that, Professor? Professor, why are you sweating? Is it too hot because the AC isn't on?" Professor Jiao stared at the comments, his cheek twitching slightly. He was starting to crack. This batch of netizens was not so easy to fool. Since Head already said it, he had to grit his teeth and continue. "Friends, from now on, when you surf the internet, please keep your eyes wide open and don't believe in certain unbelievable things. Keep your eyes open and distinguish false content. Don't believe rumors, don't spread rumors. Don't give certain influencer agencies an opportunity for hype. That's all for today. Goodbye, everyone." Professor Jiao ended the stream and let out a long sigh. He couldn't help but complain, what the hell are old Chen and the others playing at? How did they let videos and pictures of such advanced army equipment get online? Seeing Professor Jiao abruptly end the stream, netizens still wanting more flocked to his account to leave comments. "Professor, why the shameful early exit today? Do you think we'll believe you? Let's just pretend to believe him, or else the professor's position as the second-generation director won't be safe. Ha ha. The rumor has ended and the images and videos related to the alien tank along with associated topics have suddenly been taken down from the entire internet. Some internet celebrities who maliciously exploited this topic face long-term bans. Netizens are unable to type the words alien tank in the comment section. Under some mysterious force, the hype has plummeted. Hao Shuang, seeing this outcome, feels a sense of relief. She does not want to be an internet celebrity. Turning off her phone, she reclines her seat to cover herself with a blanket to rest, only to feel something uncomfortable poking her in the back pocket. Upon taking it out, she discovers it is the key to the poison blade tank. "Oh no, the car key is still with me. Forget it, once the plane lands I'll send it to the old man by express." Hao Shuang examined the car key carefully under the bright cabin lights. To be honest, it looks really nice. The exquisite craftsmanship is something she has never seen before. The car key has 10 buttons on it and she has no idea what they do. Setting it aside, Hao Shuang closed her eyes and drifted into sleep. In the deep of night at 2 o'clock, a 16-wheeled heavy flatbed truck carrying a large object wrapped in tarpaulin drove into the entrance of the Northern Army Equipment Exhibition. Armed staff confirmed the password and allowed it to pass. Liu, who was on night duty, looked puzzled as he saw the delivery arrive. Wasn't it said that it would arrive at dawn? How did it get here so fast? The truck driver, looking haggard, replied the owner offered double the shipping fee and insisted on the fastest delivery under safe conditions. "I didn't stop for a moment and didn't even eat. Since I took the money, I have to do a good job for them," the driver said as he activated the lifting system on the truck, placing the large object wrapped in tarpaulin at the center stage as requested by Liu. After finishing, he hurriedly left. Liu also completed his night shift and headed for the duty room. For safety and confidentiality, only one duty staff remained at the exhibition site overnight. After he left, the entire venue fell silent. The moonlight spread a layer of pure white veil across the ground. The large object wrapped in tarpaulin lay quietly as if an ancient beast was waiting to move. Before dawn, a Gulfstream G800 landed at Harbin International Airport. The landing was a bit bumpy and Hao Shuang woke up from her daze inside the cabin. The car key that was placed beside her fell to the ground with a thud. Hao Shuang reached down to pick it up. The plane jolted again and her palm instinctively pressed down hard, accidentally pressing one of the buttons on the key. Upon closer inspection, the button was labeled with the 4 words mode switch. What does mode switch mean? From this distance the remote signal shouldn't reach. It should be fine, she reassured herself as she disembarked from the plane. At that moment, at the center of the Army Equipment Exhibition, the poison blade tank suddenly trembled. A series of cold mechanical sounds echoed. Command reception completed. Activation of combat mode. Temperature-resistant hydraulic oil injected for legs. Raised armor deployed. Quantum-phased radar activated. High-energy weapons level 1 ready, awaiting next command. Accompanied by a chilling sound, the tarpaulin that originally covered the poison blade tank shattered into pieces. The various components of the tank interconnected, rotating and transforming. In just a few seconds its shape changed dramatically. Bathed in moonlight, it could be vaguely seen. Its height increased from the original 4 meters to 6 meters. A ferocious aura of slaughter enveloped the entire area. The sounds of insects and birds in the surroundings disappeared. The silence was somewhat frightening, as if a demon king had awakened. No command received. Entering sleep mode. In the darkness, the radar indicator light on top of the 6-meter giant slowly dimmed, awaiting a wake-up command. The next day, early in the morning, the exhibition gates had not yet opened, but an endless line had already formed outside. Thousands of people awaited the opening with eager eyes. The sounds of enthusiastic discussions rose and fell. I've heard that this Army Equipment Exhibition will feature some heavyweights. There's a chance the 4th-generation Silent Hunter will appear. What does that matter? I've heard the new generation main battle tank 99C will be showcased. Equipment planned under the southern gate might also make an appearance. As the few people at the front of the line were discussing, a voice suddenly came from behind. None of that matters. I bet there are even cooler things. Countless gazes turned toward this person. Someone replied casually, "Buddy, what could be cooler than the Southern Gate project?" The person smirked, their eyes gleaming. "Have you ever heard of the Mecha era?" Upon hearing those 4 words, countless people were taken aback. Recently, the central authorities indeed released related information. However, no one believed that they could see the actual object so soon. Even a model would be enough to stir their blood. Everyone's anticipation for the exhibition intensified. They almost wished to crash through the gates to get inside and take a look. Staff members were constantly swiping their cards to enter through the staff passage. They needed to get in early to set everything up. However, once inside, upon seeing the towering steel giant in the center, everyone was left in awe. They exclaimed in succession, "Is this the 2nd-generation Chengying? It's so cool. With it here, this exhibition will definitely be a hit. Didn't we clean up yesterday? Why are there so many tarpaulin fragments on the ground? It must have been blown in by the strong wind." Time had already reached 7:40 am, and in 20 minutes the exhibition would begin. Old Chen and Old Li, both dressed in black Zhongshan suits, walked steadily to the staff passage. Listening to the crowd discussing the Mecha era, the 2 old men exchanged a smile. Old Li whispered, "Old Chen, it seems the netizens know quite a bit. Last night Liu texted me saying the 2nd-generation Chengying Mecha model has arrived. Today it will definitely be the focus of the entire event. Old Chen said yesterday when I asked you what was placed on the central display stand, you were unwilling to say. Now it's all coming to light. By the way, did the duty staff receive that tank?" Old Li shook his head. "I didn't hear Liu mention it, so it probably hasn't arrived yet." The 2 men walked through the staff passage and entered the venue. Almost all the staff were gathered at the central display stand. The sounds of amazement were continuous. As the 2 old men approached, they followed everyone's gaze toward the central display stand, their expressions changing. Their eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Their mouths gaped wide enough to swallow a basin. Standing on the display stand was a 6-meter-tall quadrupedal mecha. 4 stout hydraulic steel legs supported the heavy body of the mecha above. Impenetrable armored modules surrounded it, protecting the fortress securely. On top was a more than 5-meter-long enormous electromagnetic railgun. Blue arcs crackled on the rail. The fine electric current seemed unable to withstand the immense internal pressure, dispersing into the air and causing a tingling sensation even from a distance. "Old Li, where did you order this model? It looks so real. I never expected the 2nd-generation Chengying model to look like this. The actual effect is so impressive." The lips of the 2 elders were chapped and they kept swallowing their saliva. Even though they knew it was a model, they were still deeply moved inside. They quickly approached and stood beneath the 4-legged mech, feeling as if it could crush them with a single step at any moment. Elder Chen scrutinized it carefully, and the more he looked, the more he felt it was extraordinary. Their expression shifted from initial surprise to caution as a storm of emotions gradually surged within them. Even the tone of their voices became somewhat off. Old Lee, look at the structural details of this thing. The mechanical connection seemed to use a non-linear magnetic coupling. This technology is currently only available in the top research institutions of our country and the Eagle Nation, right? Who did you commission to make this model? Was it necessary to go to such lengths? Old Lee seemed not to hear the string of questions from Elder Chen. His eyes were fixed on another part of the four-legged mech as he murmured to himself, my God, a universal hinge with 12 degrees of freedom, this is my first time seeing one. The two were almost bewitched, carefully examining every part of the four-legged mech. The more they looked, the more their hearts raced. Finally they exchanged glances with each other. Elder Chen grabbed Old Lee's arm and said, Old Lee, I have a feeling this is not a model at all. Old Lee's expression twisted in hesitation. Logically, it must be a model. We do have research on four-legged mech firepower platforms for modern warfare, but it's still theoretical. There's no way we could actually build one. As they were talking, a large crowd of exhibition visitors surged in through the main entrance. The exhibition had finally begun. Once inside, many quick-witted people immediately spotted the massive four-legged mech on the central platform and rushed over with sparkling eyes. Hundreds of people surrounded the platform with exclamations rising one after another. Whoa, this is awesome! A four-legged mech can look this cool. Indeed. The age of mechs has arrived. It looks so real, a sci-fi movie brought to life. Is our country stirring up trouble beyond the blue planet, preparing to fight aliens, that we need to build something like this? Old Lee, hearing the chatter around him and the constant clicking of camera shutters, snapped back to reality and said, Xiao Ding did a good job on this task. With this, the exhibition won't lack popularity, and it might even attract foreign military procurement officers. With that, he pulled out his phone to send Xiao Ding a message, great job on this task. The next second, Xiao Ding's reply came through. Old Lee, I was just about to call you. The model has just been delivered to the exhibition entrance. Should we bring it in, or is it too late? Old Lee was baffled by the message. He muttered, Xiao Ding's model is only now arriving at the exhibition entrance, so what's that on the platform? Elder Chen, standing nearby, also caught a glimpse of the message. After a moment of confusion, his expression changed drastically. His eyelids twitched slightly. Old Lee. It seems we've made a mistake. Could this big thing in front of us be that? That? Elder Chen couldn't finish his sentence, hesitating. After a few seconds of delay, he continued, but the appearance is vastly different, clearly not the same. Old Lee suggested, why don't you call Xiao Shuang right now and ask? Elder Chen nodded and with confusion dialed the number. Hao Shuang's voice came through the phone. Grandpa, did you receive the thing? Were you blown away by how cool it is? Xiao Shuang, where did you send the item? It was delivered late last night. The truck driver said he unloaded it at the central platform of the exhibition. I didn't want to disturb your rest, so I planned to tell you in the morning, but I overslept a bit. What didn't you get it? The item. Elder Chen looked up at the four-legged mech that blotted out half the sky. Licking his chapped lips, he said with difficulty, the item might have arrived, but its appearance is a bit different from the photos and videos you sent. Oh, Grandpa, it's normal for the real thing to look different from the footage. Elder Chen didn't know how to respond. He turned to Old Lee, is this normal? Old Lee shook his head like a rattle drum. After a moment's thought, Elder Chen said, Xiao Shuang, why don't you come over now? This thing is too incredible. You're the only one who's operated it, and we may need your help with many follow-up matters. All right, he'll take a private jet over right now. Land directly at the northern border Red Dragon military airport. He'll have an armed helicopter pick you up to save time. After hanging up, Elder Chen murmured, who exactly is this Master Su? He can't just be a simple mechanic. Could he be a hidden scientific research giant? An hour later, Hao Shuang rushed through the employee entrance into the exhibition hall. From a distance, she spotted the four-legged mech on the central platform and her pupils contracted. This exhibition is amazing, I've never seen a mech with this design before. As she spoke, Elder Chen and Old Lee approached. Xiao Shuang, can you find a way to move this big thing of yours somewhere else when there are fewer people? It's too crowded here to study it properly. Hao Shuang looked confused. The Venom Blade tank. I can drive it, but I'm not very skilled. Where is it? Elder Chen and Old Lee both pointed to the four-legged mech on the central platform. In unison they said, ISNT, that it. Hao Shuang stared at the direction they were pointing, blinking her big innocent eyes. Her expression turned blank. Grandpa Lee, you don't expect me to drive that, do you? Elder Chen's lips moved. What do you think? Hao Shuang scratched her head. Her mind was struggling to process the situation. The three of them stood frozen in place. The atmosphere became unreadable. The crowd around the four-legged mech was growing, initially just 1,000, but now it was on the verge of breaking 10,000. The air was thick with a restless heat. The fervor in people's eyes was rising. A streamer had started a live broadcast on site. Hello family members in Ting Fong de Can. The four-legged mech you see here is appearing on screen for the first time. As you can see, it's incredibly realistic. As Brother Chi always says, our Dragon Kingdom's grand strategy is unmatched. While the Eagle Nation is still researching Walmart shopping bags, we've already ushered in the age of mechs. I Fox Talker swear I'm not lying this time, this exhibition really has a mech. Foreign journalists were also on site to observe. A blonde blue-eyed reporter from the Eagle Nation sneered at the crowd and streamers praising the four-legged mech. She folded her arms, making her ample chest stand out. In halting Chinese she said, Dragon Kingdom people are always daydreaming. It's just a model, you'd think they'd actually built a mech. Her words immediately drew angry glares from those nearby. The blonde reporter shrugged and walked away with a haughty look. Not far away, Hao Shuang had been in a daze for several seconds. She looked seriously at the four-legged mech. This is clearly not my Venom Blade tank, but somehow it feels a bit familiar. Suddenly she recalled accidentally pressing a button on the tank key fob when the plane landed last night. It dawned on her. She pulled out the key fob, aimed it at the mech on the platform and asked, Grandpa, can I try something? Old Chen glanced at Hao Shuang's car key, assuming it was a remote keyless entry device. It shouldn't cause any major trouble. Go ahead, try it. With his grandfather's consent, Hao Shuang located the mode switch button on the car key. Amid the crowd's inattention, he pressed it with a soft click. The quadrupedal mech on the exhibition platform trembled slightly. 2 rows of ice blue lights at its top surged to life like a tide, the glow intensifying from faint to dazzling. Thousands of onlookers stood staring at the quadrupedal mech in shock. It moved. Impossible. It really did move, I saw it too. The blonde female reporter who hadn't yet walked far heard the commotion behind her and paused, turning with a puzzled look. A flicker of mockery crossed her eyes. A shell with 2 rows of lights and a bit of current, and you actually take it for a mech. Backward. Foolish. As she finished speaking, a mechanical sound emanated from within the quadrupedal mech on the platform. Mode switching activating, tank assault combat mode, coolant valve switched, power conversion complete, scene perception complete, danger. Please maintain a safe distance and do not approach. Morphing in progress. 5, 4, 3. The icy voice hammered against the audience's skulls like tiny mallets. Their expression shifted as if discovering a new world, shock mingled with excitement. Hao Shuang's nerves tightened. His fingers clutching the car key turned white. He held his breath. A flicker of unease rose in old Chen's clouded eyes. He looked at Hao Shuang, then back at the quadrupedal mech, sensing something monumental was about to unfold. Old Li shuddered, drew a sharp breath and shouted to the crowd to step back. Everyone step back. The crowd, jolted by his cry, snapped awake. Everyone retreated at lightning speed. The cold mechanical voice seemed to accelerate, not steady at all, intensifying the urgency. 2, 1. Beginning morphing. Under countless gazes, the mech's for robust steel limbs rapidly retracted, folded and merged with its main body. Road wheels emerged from within and tracks and armor plates interlocked flawlessly. The electromagnetic railgun on top aligned and locked with the turret base, forming a complete turret. The quadrupedal mech, originally 6 meters tall, shrank to 4 meters. Its form visibly transformed into a sleek, aggressive tank. A surge of untamed, domineering energy radiated outward. The overwhelming visual impact slammed into the onlookers' eyes, tearing through retinas and shattering lenses. After a brief silence, gasps erupted. I'm losing my mind. It's Decepticons from Transformers. The mech era isn't just talk. Asian, you're serious. The lens of the cannon R1 camera in the American blonde reporter's hands cracked with a sharp snap. She stared fixedly at the super-heavy tank on the central platform. Her eyeballs trembled violently as if about to burst from their sockets. What the? This is impossible. How can a mech turn into a tank? Waves of cold dread hammered her pituitary gland. Her mind felt like it was stuffed with a gold brick, short-circuited trigeminal nerves, unable to think. She could barely stand. Old Chen and Old Li stood frozen like wooden statues. Incredulity was etched across their aged faces. Hao Shuang's pupils blazed with light as if a flashbang had detonated. His throat pumped like a bellows, gasping for air. His heart thumped like a drum. He never imagined Master Su's modified tank could be so astonishing, able to switch between quadrupedal mech and tank forms at will. Master Su had mentioned a little surprise. Could this be it? This surprise was truly overwhelming. A minute later, Old Chen and Old Li finally tore their gaze away from the tank. The shock in their eyes gradually faded, replaced by a hint of anxiety and unease. Old Lee spoke rapidly. Old Chen, we don't know yet if this tank has real combat capability, but just based on what we saw, it's worth investing heavily in research and study. It contains so many top-tier technologies that could leapfrog Dragon Country science by at least 20 years. If word gets out, it will inevitably attract the covetousness of certain nations, even driving them to desperate measures. Old Chen nodded heavily in agreement. His cloudy gaze swept across the entire venue. Too many people, how do we contain the news? Old Lee stroked his beard and said in a low voice, there's no other way, we have to do this. He summoned a subordinate and issued a series of instructions. The network signal at the scene was cut off. As everyone wondered why there was no internet, a few crisp clanking sounds rang out near the central platform like someone tossing empty cans. Thick smoke billowed up. The smoke spread rapidly. A fire alarm blared overhead. Woo! Panicked, the bewildered crowd fled. Hundreds of staff members evacuated the crowd to the rest area. Seizing the moment when no one was watching, Hao Shuang dashed into the cockpit of the poisoned blade tank and drove it away, following the route arranged by Old Lee. The Chengying model, already transported outside the exhibition hall, was quickly hoisted in and placed on the central platform. Old Lee personally explained to everyone in the rest area. Apologies for the scare. For safety reasons, due to the large crowd, we specially organized this fire drill. Once the smoke clears, you may continue your visit. To ensure military secrets are not leaked, photography is prohibited at this exhibition from now on. We will oversee the deletion of all previously recorded videos and photos. Please cooperate. Soon all photos and videos were deleted. During the process, the staff made an unexpected discovery. The blonde, blue-eyed American female reporter turned out to be a spy embedded within the country. She was handed over directly to the security department. Some streamers attending the exhibition were privately summoned by the staff. Afterward, they briefly went live again in designated rooms. Hello, family. In Ting Feng de Can. Wasn't that AI effect of the mech turning into a tank super cool? Everyone was fooled. I who sure swear I'm not lying this time. I did use special effects and what you saw was all fake. As Brother Chi always says, our live streaming special effects technology is advancing by leaps and bounds. Netizens flooded the chat with question marks. Half an hour later, the smoke on the central platform cleared. But the platform now held a 5-meter turtle Chengying tactical mech model. It was also very cool, yet something felt off. Some speculated that the tank had transformed again into this Chengying mech. Others refuted it, pointing out the differences in size, material and paint. The Northern Border Army Equipment Road base, just 20 kilometers from the exhibition site. Hao Shuang, after a bumpy ride, drove the poisoned blade tank into the base's equipment testing area. Old Lee and Old Chen had already contacted the Security Bureau to arrange non-disclosure agreements for everyone who had witnessed the poisoned blade tank at the Shalashan Heroes Gathering and the Army Equipment Exhibition. After handling matters, they arrived at the testing area. Standing before the poisoned blade tank, they reached out to stroke its cold tracks, the sensation reminiscent of caressing an old partner on a heated kang. This material, definitely not titanium alloy or high-strength steel. It seems like a new alloy. Who could have built this transforming tank? It certainly couldn't have been built by just a repairman. They turned in unison to look at Hao Shuang. Old Chen asked earnestly, Xiao Shuang, tell your grandfather the truth, where did this tank really come from? Grandpa, it was built by that repairman Master Su we contacted on the plane, you were there too. But can a repairman build something like this? I'm not lying. If you don't believe me, call him yourself. Hao Shuang displayed Su Mo's phone number on his mobile. Elder Chen immediately pulled out his phone and dialed. No one answered for a long time. Hao Shuang opened the WeChat chat window and sent a message to Su Mo, but there was still no response. He might be busy right now, his phone probably on silent. Suppressing his curiosity about Master Su, Elder Chen turned to look at the tank. Then we'll contact him later. First, let's test the alloy composition and mechanical properties of this tank. Old Lee, does your base have an X-ray fluorescence mechanical tester? Yes. Elder Lee made a call. Dr. Dong, please bring the X-ray fluorescence mechanical tester over. We have a new type of alloy material here that needs composition analysis. Okay. After waiting nearly half an hour, a tall middle-aged man with hair gel carrying a black leather case walked into the equipment testing area. Most of the base staff wore blue standard-issue research lab coats, making this man's black suit seem out of place. TSK, which genius came up with this bizarre tank? You have to admit the exterior is pretty intimidating. As soon as Dr. Dong arrived, he examined the tank with keen interest, knocking on its side armor with the back of his hand. His expression was a mix of surprise and amusement. Elder Lee explained this tank was developed by a domestic repair talent. It's quite extraordinary. Did you bring the instrument? Let's test its armor material and mechanical properties first. A repair talent. Dr. Yuan was somewhat bemused. Currently the strongest tank internationally is the Eagle's M1A2, which uses alumina ceramic armor. This definitely isn't alumina ceramic. It's probably all show and no substance. I recently acquired a new type of alpha mechanical tester from my alma mater in the land of the rising sun. It's on its way and should arrive in less than half an hour. It's far more advanced than this domestic X-ray fluorescence tester and will give more accurate readings. Should we wait? Elderly said calmly, no need to wait. Just use the domestic tester? All right if you say so. Well, make do with this one. Dr. Drong took the X-ray fluorescence mechanical tester out of the black leather case and began operating it. Elder Lee's gaze towards Dr. Drong held a hint of displeasure. Elder Chen waited for the test results with a composed expression. Hao Shuang made no effort to hide his disdain for Dr. Drong, asking Elder Lee in a low voice, Grandpa Lee, who is this guy? Has a double doctorate who studied at the Tokyo Institute of Technology in the land of the rising sun, specializing in material science and semiconductors. Has a newly recruited talent this year. A second-rate foreigner, no wonder Hez so sarcastic. As Hao Shuang muttered, Dr. Drong pressed the tester's probe against the tank's armor and pressed a button. A green progress bar appeared on the instrument screen. Above the bar was a line of text conducting material mechanical analysis. Current progress 20. Current progress 40. Elder Chen and Elder Lee stared intently at the screen, holding their breath. Hao Shuang was also on edge, curious about the upcoming test results. Dr. Drong's expression was relaxed, a faint smirk playing on his lips. Current progress 100. Material composition analysis complete. Current material composition carbon 75 or alkene 25. Elder Chen and Elder Lee's pupils contracted. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with shock. The smile on Dr. Yuan's face froze. No. Only carbon and alkene. That means it's a carbon-alkene polymer, not an alloy. But it feels exactly like metal. How can these two elements polymerize into a metal? His voice grew shrill as he scratched his head. Hao Shuang looked confused, not understanding what was being said. Elder Chen explained to him in a low voice, strictly speaking, carbon and alkene are not pure metals. No matter how they undergo a polymerization reaction, they shouldn't exhibit metallic properties. Yet whether we touch it with our hands or observe its color and texture, it seems more like an alloy. Undoubtedly this is a new type of synthetic material, opening a new door for the development of material science worldwide. Elder Lee nodded vigorously beside him, his tone growing more intense. Absolutely right. This is not just a new discovery but a groundbreaking attempt. The stagnant field of material science is poised for greater development. If this achievement gets out, it would undoubtedly win this year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Hao Shuang finally understood, finding it hard to believe for a moment. His expression shifted constantly. This poison blade tank, which cost him only 3 million, turned out to hold so many secrets. A material worthy of a Nobel Prize casually applied by Master Su to the armor of this tank. Was Master Su not afraid someone would steal his invention? Hao Shuang's curiosity about Master Su had reached its peak. If not for the current business, he would have visited in person. Dr. Drong's eyes reddened as if struck by sudden conjunctivitis. His face grew heavy, his brow furrowed into a deep crease. Probably just a blind squirrel finding a nut. That repair talent sure got lucky. But even if he stumbled upon a new material, it doesn't mean it has good mechanical properties. Using it on a tank is pure fanta. Before he could finish his last word, the X-ray fluorescence mechanical tester sounded a voice prompt again. At the same time, lines of text appeared on the screen. Mechanical property analysis complete. Room temperature strength 10000 empath, ductility 50, lightweight ratio ATL. The Dr. Drong's face twitched violently. His expression contorted like a crumpled rag. His voice carried a hint of madness as he scratched his scalp, frantically pulling out strands of hair. Strength of 10000 empath. And this ductility. The lightweight ratio reaching ATL. Holy crap. This is unbelievable. Elder Chen stepped forward, a fiery gleam in his eyes. His breathing was unusually rapid, as if his bronchial tubes might burst. He exclaimed, currently the TC4 titanium alloy used in our 5th generation fighters and the Eagle's 5th generation fighters has a strength of only 900 empath. This carbon-alkene polymer is more than 10 times stronger. Frankly speaking, even a tactical nuclear warhead might not be able to easily shake it. Even more incredible is that gold has a ductility of about 50. Its ductility matches gold with maximum plasticity. And it also possesses the lightweight high-strength characteristics comparable to carbon fiber. Elder Lee's eyes sparkled, shining like searchlights. His aged face was etched with excitement. Its range of applications is enormous. It's no exaggeration to say this material is enough to spark an unprecedented revolution in material science. The so-called Nobel Prize pales in comparison to this. Hao Shuang was stunned, feeling as if a bolt of lightning had struck his crown chakra. His head buzzed. He knew this tank was impressive, but he never imagined it was this remarkable. Dr. Yuan seemed utterly lost. In his hand he clutched a handful of hair he had torn from his own scalp. His body trembled slightly as he muttered to himself. How could our dragon country possibly have developed this kind of superpolymer material? Even John Ball, the birthplace of modern chemical materials, couldn't create something like this. Something must be wrong. Hao Shuang looked at Dr. Yuan, hostility already kindling in her eyes. She had disliked him from the start, and now her antipathy reached its peak. Dr. Yuan, are you saying that countries like Eagle Country, Little Japan, and John Ball will always be superior to us? Dr. Yuan, recovering slightly from his daze, turned his gaze toward Hao Shuang. Young lady, a nation's growth doesn't depend on mere rhetoric. There's still a considerable gap between us and Western nations like Eagle Country in the realm of technology. We must face reality. We must dare to acknowledge our own backwardness and admit the excellence of others. It's not about fearing inferiority, it's about fearing arrogance and narrow-mindedness. We should comprehensively learn from and imitate the technology and culture of Western nations step by step. As long as we don't give up, we will surely catch up to them. Hearing these words, Hao Shuang felt as if she were seeing another version of her cousin standing before her. She couldn't bear it any longer. Just as she was about to retort, a staff member in a base uniform hurried over, pulling something that looked like a white rolling suitcase. Calling out from a distance, he said, Dr. Yuan, someone sent this instrument over and asked me to give it to you. Dr. Yuan's eyes flickered upon seeing it. He clapped his hands sharply. Ah. I see. Our X-ray fluorescence mechanical analyzer is broken. Let me test it with my brand new Little Japan Alpha mechanical analyzer and the truth will be revealed. As he spoke, he tossed the domestic X-ray fluorescence mechanical analyzer aside in disdain. He opened the white case and connected the power. He firmly attached the instrument suction cup to the surface. Turning on the device, he began the warm-up process. 2 minutes later, Dr. Yuan said with confidence, this instrument can not only measure material composition and mechanical properties but also temperature characteristics. Just watch. Click. He pressed the button with his finger. The instrument began to operate. This Alpha mechanical analyzer was a full size larger than the X-ray fluorescence one. As it ran, a faint hum emanated from it. The system language was already set to Chinese, so everyone could understand the displayed text. The content on the screen was largely similar to that of the X-ray fluorescence analyzer. The only difference was an additional temperature measurement column. A long green progress bar climbed from 10 all the way to 95. Dr. Yuan straightened his back and declared loudly, everyone pay attention. The results are coming. Domestic products are simply unreliable. It's the high-end goods from Little Japan and Eagle Country that are truly dependable. As soon as he finished speaking, the instrument emitted a crisp sound. Beep. Current material composition carbon 75 or alkene 25. Room temperature strength 10,000 MPa. The results were identical to the previous measurement. Not a single deviation. Dr. Yuan was utterly dumbfounded. His eyes lost their clarity, turning a dull vacant blue. His lips moved, but he couldn't utter a single word. His fingers savagely tore at his hair as if plucking feathers from a chicken until he had gone completely bald. Immediately after, the instrument reported the final set of data. Heat transfer coefficient 0.01 WMK. The moment this value was displayed, the air fell silent. Time seemed to freeze in that instant. The ambient temperature rose rapidly in the quietude. Everyone stared at the instrument, speechless. Old Chen and Old Li, who were usually composed, had now completely lost their calm. Their eyes were filled with a complex mix of ecstasy, shock, and doubt. Having spent most of their lives in research, they had never been so discomposed. Dr. Yuan's hand, which had been tearing at his hair, froze midair. His expression was as if he had swallowed a dead, juicy fly. Hao Shuang was completely baffled. She asked cautiously, Grandpa Li, what does this 0.01 WMK mean? Old Li took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. Only then did he speak, his voice trembling slightly. Let me put it this way. Currently the world's top thermal insulation material is carbon nanotube film. With just a thin layer it can insulate against temperatures as high as 2600 C. But this carbon-alkene polymer only needs 1/3 the thickness of carbon nanotube film to achieve the same effect of blocking 2600 C. It can be applied to numerous fields like aerospace, military and energy technology. Hao Shuang finally understood. In short, this material had top-tier performance in every aspect. It was spectacularly impressive. Dr. Wong pinched the bridge of his nose and shook his head. He muttered to himself, impossible. Absolutely impossible. Could this instrument be faulty too? He found a scrap piece of metal near the testing area. After measuring it, the instrument gave normal data. Then he retested the Venom Blade tank armor and the results matched the previous measurement. He was frantic, overwhelmed. The situation defied his understanding. His voice tore from his throat as he cried out, Kusu! Nandakor! It's impossible for a mere repairman from Dragon Country to develop such an outrageous material. What Eagle Country and Little Japan couldn't achieve, how could this person do it? This isn't real. Muyakutada. Hao Shuang snorted coldly and said flatly, Dr. Wrong, didn't your Little Japan teachers teach you what to do in a situation like this? Dr. Wrong's lips quivered, but he couldn't form any words. Indeed, he didn't know how to respond. Hao Shuang continued, unafraid to speak loudly. In your fantasy, Eagle Country, Little Japan and the former Western powers will always be the strongest. But you fail to realize that Dragon Country today is no longer what it used to be. Our industrial strength, cutting-edge technology and comprehensive national power have surpassed Eagle Country in every way. Her voice grew louder and louder, resounding with force and clarity. Each word was heavy and powerful, like a massive iron hammer striking Dr. Luong's chest. The one who is arrogant and narrow-minded is you, a sycophant who worships the West. You've knelt for so long that even standing up gives you vertigo. After finishing her speech, Hao Shuang felt immensely relieved. Dr. Zhuang staggered. His dazed gaze shifted from Hao Shuang to the tank beside him, then to the instrument panel. His expression twisted in agony. His legs gave way and he collapsed to the ground, resembling a heap of lifeless flesh. Old Chen leaned closer to Old Li and whispered, Old Li, why does your base employ someone like this? Old Li gave an awkward smile. He exploited loopholes in our talent introduction policy. The base has been secretly investigating whether he has any espionage ties. Now it seems somewhat likely, but even if has a spy, has probably not a high-level one. Old Chen mused, yes, a truly skilled spy would likely show the opposite of what he displays. Hao Shuang also whispered, Grandpa Li, could the invention of this material just tested on the tank be stolen? Old Chen shook his head with a smile. Of course not. Simply knowing the composition ratio of the material isn't very meaningful. One would need to know the manufacturing process and the complete macromolecular structure of the carbon-alkene polymer. With a fixed ratio of carbon and alkene, there are countless ways to combine their molecular forms. For instance, carbon itself has many molecular combinations such as diamond, graphite, carbon nanotubes, graphene, activated carbon, charcoal, coke. Hao Shuang nodded as if she understood something. Old Chen changed the subject and asked, Xiao Shuang, have you managed to get in touch with that Master Su you know? Hao Shuang pulled out his phone and glanced at it. WeChat hasn't replied yet. Probably still busy. Elder Chen pondered for 2 seconds, then said solemnly, we can't wait any longer. This person is no ordinary individual, we must visit him as soon as possible. Elder Li narrowed his eyes, a calm smile curving at the corners of his mouth. Leave finding him to me. Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. Within 5 minutes my technical department will know his whereabouts. Elder Chen's eyes lit up. Old Li, what are we waiting for? Get on with it. Elder Li summoned several base management personnel and immediately placed Dr. Shuang under isolation for investigation. Then he led Elder Chen and Hao Shuang toward the base's network data center. They arrived at a massive underground server room where rows of medium and large-scale data processors lined the walls. Workers in anti-static suits were busy with their tasks. Elder Li instructed a chubby young man wearing glasses, Xiao Ji, here's a phone number. Can you pinpoint this person's current location? I can. How long? 2 or 3 minutes. Good. It's up to you. Xiao Ji glanced at the phone number, leisurely rolled his neck and hung his jacket on the chair. He interlaced his fingers, cracking them with a few audible pops, a confident smirk spreading across his face. His aura of expertise and cool composure was at its peak. His fingers landed on the keyboard, moving as if in a frenzy, clattering rapidly over the keys. Hao Shuang watched with a flicker of surprise. Such speed, his fingers were almost a blur. Elder Chen raised an eyebrow, glancing at Elder Li. Old Li, you've got quite the talent here. Elder Li beamed with pride, hands clasped behind his back. Oh, it's just a knack for computers. I have many talents like this. Honestly, does your research institute need any? I could send a couple over. Elder Chen's mouth twitched. Damn it. That old fellow was showing off again. Back in the dormitory days, he was always the one boasting in front of the brothers, and he still hasn't changed. Elder Chen gritted his teeth and forced out, no need. My institute doesn't lack talent either. Besides, once we recruit this Master Su, we'll be even more set. What? Elder Li caught a sensitive word and instantly grew wary. His face lengthened. Old Chen were brothers from the same dorm. I'll be blunt, this Master Su was found by my people, so he should join our research base. Elder Chen immediately adopted an unyielding stance, his face stern as he let out a cold laugh. Old Li, don't give me that. The phone number was provided by me, and my granddaughter was the first to contact Master Su. He's definitely coming to our research institute. The two elders glared at each other, their gazes unwavering. Old Chen, how about this? Take whatever you want from my base, just let me have Master Su. Old Li, do you take me for a fool? Trying to trick a child? This man developed top-tier military equipment like the poison blade tank and sparked a materials revolution with carbon polymer. Even if you offered me the whole base and your wife, I wouldn't trade. Since that's the case, let's each rely on our own abilities. Fine. Bring it on. The two veteran researchers' determination reached its peak. Both were resolute in their pursuit. Elder Chen's shrewd eyes flickered as he turned to Hao Shuang. Xiao Shuang, I recall this Master Su is quite young, isn't he? Yeah, a couple of years older than me. What's he like? He's a good person, handsome and sunny. I've been watching his live streams for the past month. His repair skills are excellent and he's very hardworking. How close are you two? We're acquaintances, not particularly close. Grandpa, why are you asking all this? Grandpa thinks Xiao Su is a fine young man. You should get to know him better. Before Hao Shuang could respond, Elder Li, overhearing this, was visibly agitated. He pointed at Elder Chen, spittle flying. Old Li, oh old Li. Are you using every trick in the book to snatch him? Damn it, even deploying a honey trap. Elder Chen shrugged dismissively. If you've got the means, go ahead. Elder Li choked on his words. My granddaughter is only 12. Elder Chen wore a smug expression. That's not my problem. While the two elders bickered, Xiao Ji had completed the final preparations for the location. A loading bar appeared on the computer screen. The elders turned their gazes to the screen, falling silent. Their desire to recruit Master Su was so intense it seemed ready to overflow. A couple of years older than Xiao Shuang, around 21. Such a young research prodigy was a true gem. Any institution that secured him would instantly rise to the world's top tier. The loading bar filled rapidly. A voice rang out. IP location locked. Xiao Ji struck the enter key with a decisive finger, then stood and gave a slight bow to the two elders. Elder Li, Elder Chen, forgive my humble effort. This is the person's current location. Elder Li and Elder Chen eagerly looked at the new pop-up on the screen. It clearly read the IP location of this phone number, Pandora. Hiss, the two elders and Hao Shuang simultaneously gasped. All of them swallowed hard. Elder Li said, Xiao Ji, did you make a mistake somewhere? Seeing the leader's expression, Xiao Ji turned to the screen, his confident smile gradually freezing. A look of confusion crossed his eyes. Pandora? Where is that? Is there such a place in this country? Hao Shuang hesitated, then said, Pandora is the planet where the Navi live. Humans once sent the Avatar to land there and discovered vast reserves of rare minerals. Xiao Ji's face flushed red. Maybe the positioning system is glitching. Hold on, I'll try again. He resumed, a furious clatter on the keyboard. The loading bar finished. The IP address appeared. This time it was different. Elder Li read it aloud, the IP location of this phone number, Cybertron. Everyone in the room fell silent. Xiao Ji was questioning his own existence. Having executed countless location tasks, this was the first time he'd encountered such a situation. Elder Li, let me try once more. He switched methods only to locate it on Krypton. Xiao Ji slumped in his chair. He gave up struggling. Signal transmission is normal, communication quality is stable, but the problem arises during location locking. This person's communication device is peculiar. Elder Li and Elder Chen's initial excitement dampened into dejection. It seemed they had hit a dead end. Suddenly Hao Shuang had an idea and suggested, Master Su has done live streams. Can we find him through past recordings or contact Douyin directly for the streamer's info? Absolutely. Xiao Ji sat up and ran an AI script. 10 minutes later, facial recognition matched the identity information. Got it. His real name is Sumo, a college student at Long Bay University of Science and Technology in Harbin. Summer break just ended and today is the first day of the new semester. Hao Shuang suddenly understood. No wonder he didn't answer the phone, he must have it on silent for class. Elder Li immediately declared, let's set off now. To Long Bay University of Science and Technology. Minutes later, a Hongqi LS-7 armored vehicle drove out of the Northern Border Army Equipment Research and Development Base. 2 fully armed Dongfeng Mengsha military off-road vehicles escorted it front and back. The 3 vehicles sped along the national highway, racing toward Harbin at full throttle. In Harbin at Long Bay University of Science and Technology. The first day of the new semester after summer break was free of classes. The counselor gathered the students in a small classroom to emphasize the semester's key points. Typically, he only showed his face at the start and end of the semester, remaining elusive otherwise. Midway through his speech, he was called out into the hallway by the department head. Seizing the opportunity, the students began to chat idly. Sumo sat by the window in the last row, secretly gazing outside out of boredom. The girl in the adjacent seat gently nudged Sumo. Sumo, what did you do over the break? You ignored all my invitations to hang out. Sumo turned his head. I was fixing all sorts of machinery and electronics to earn tuition. I can't keep borrowing money from you, can I? The girl was named Dao Xiaosu. She had a delicate baby-faced visage, a pert nose adorned with large black-rimmed glasses. Her long black hair was braided into 2 pigtails casually resting on her full shapely chest. Dressed in simple casual wear, she was charming and adorable. Over the past 2 years of university, she had offered Sumo some help and they shared a good rapport. Dao Xiaosu added, oh. Did you earn enough? Enough? I heard you even started live streaming claiming you can fix anything. Is that? Before Sumo could respond, a teasing voice came from the seat in front. Old Su can fix anything, even a leaky woman, right? Sumo nodded seriously. I've never actually fixed that. Ha ha ha. The classroom door suddenly swung open. It wasn't the counselor who entered, but Fan Yu, the head of the mechanical engineering department. Students, may I borrow a moment to announce some good news? Your class has been selected as the host class for exchange students. Let's welcome our new classmates. Led by Director Fan, most students clapped half-heartedly. 5 male exchange students filed in and stood at the podium. Their smiling gazes swept across the room one by one. Director Fan gave a brief introduction for the 5, then arranged their seats. One of them, a tall fellow named Mars, settled in but quickly stood up and walked over to Sumo. A smug curl graced his lips as he smiled and gave a slight nod. In broken Chinese he said, classmate, could we swap seats? I'd like to sit next to this beautiful girl. No. Sumo refused without even a glance. No matter which classroom he attended, he was accustomed to sitting in the last row by the window and had no desire to move. A flicker of displeasure crossed Mars' eyes. His smile turned somewhat forced. Classmate, you really should switch. No. You? Mars stood by the desk, his expression darkening. He didn't leave immediately. Instead, he turned his gaze to Director Fan. Director Fan strode over, quickly glaring coldly at Sumo. This student, mind your manners toward our new classmates. Your lack of decency brings shame upon the school. His tone was harsh, his voice filled with an unyielding reprimand. Now. Immediately. Gather your things and move over there. Sumo lifted his head slightly, frowning. Director Fan, school seats have always been first come first served for the class. I can switch if I want and I can refuse if I don't. Why the moral coercion? Wang Fei, a classmate in the front row, muttered, Mars isn't the principal, so why should he sit wherever he wants? Dao Xiaosu added, anyway, I don't want to sit with anyone else. If Sumo moves, he'll move too, and we'll still be desk mates. Mars' face flushed with embarrassment and anger, barely holding his composure. He was being rejected. And this pretty-faced guy dared to defy him. He had never endured such humiliation. Though he wanted to explode with rage, it was the first day of the semester, and with so many eyes on him, he had to maintain some semblance of grace. Clenching his fists, he said in a low voice, forget it, Director Fan. I'm easygoing, I can sit anywhere. Since this classmate likes the seat, let him have it. With that, Mars returned to his seat. Director Fan shot Sumo a fierce glare, committing this troublesome student to memory, then left the room. The counselor returned, glanced at the 5 exchange students and continued outlining the semester's rules, arranging for students to collect their textbooks. Half an hour later, the counselor let the students take a break before resuming. Mars cast a determined look at Dao Xiaosu and walked out of the classroom. Around noon, Dao Xiaosu and a few others were called out by Director Fan. The sound of an argument echoed in the hallway. Why do they need us for assistance? Isn't that inconvenient? Why not ask others? You are meticulous and gentle, better suited to provide service. What service? On what grounds? All selected students will receive credit rewards. It's voluntary, the school won't force anyone. But I must warn you, some things might affect your graduation. The students in the classroom could faintly hear the commotion outside. Their expressions turned indignant. Even the counselor let out a heavy sigh, looking exasperated. Minutes later, Dao Xiaosu and the others returned to the classroom, their faces sullen. Director Fan followed. He looked toward the tall male students in the last 2 rows, including Su Mo. You 3 don't rush off to lunch. First help Mars and the others move their luggage. Let's foster a spirit of mutual assistance. The bell for the final morning class finally rang. Su Mo had planned to slip away immediately, unwilling to help Mars with his luggage. But the counselor called them back. He handed each a can of Red Bull. Help them move the luggage, but just go through the motions. Move what you can and leave what you can't. Call me if anything comes up. Su Mo didn't want to help, but over the past 2 years the counselor had gone out of his way to assist him with financial aid, knowing his family's struggles. Refusing outright would put the counselor in a tough spot with the administration, and Head surely face Director Fan's wrath. Might as well go along, but Head decide how the luggage was actually moved. Minutes later, Mars and his 4 companions led the way, lugging heavy bags, while Su Mo, Wang Fei and the others pulled suitcases behind them, strolling as if on a leisurely walk. The suitcases clattered noisily, their wheels nearly flying off. Though tasked with helping move luggage, the 3 of them exerted almost no effort, even proving counterproductive. Mars and his group protested all the way, but Su Mo and Wang Fei ignored them. Wang Fei murmured, "Old Su, doesn't this feel like walking a dog?" Su Mo chuckled. The group moved forward through the campus living quarters. As they walked, Wang Fei grew puzzled. This direction is wrong, isn't it? Ahead is just Dao Xiaosu's dormitory, building 8. Mars said, Director Fan showed us the dorm this morning, it's that building ahead. Bewildered, Su Mo and the others continued until they reached the building's entrance, then stopped. Going further would label them as perverts. A prominent sign hung by the door read, "No entry." Mars frowned in annoyance. Why stop? It's on the 3rd floor inside. Su Mo pointed to the sign. No entry. Wang Fei pulled out his phone. We need to verify this with Director Fan. It would be a disaster if we made a mistake. As he spoke, he dialed Director Fan's number. The call connected. Director Fan were moving Mars and his group's luggage. We're at the entrance of dormitory building 8 now. Are they really supposed to stay here? That's right. Just do as they say. I'm busy. Oh woo. Contact me if anything comes up. Director, are you sure it's building 8? Beep beep beep, the line went dead. Mars barked at Su Mo and the others in a commanding tone, stop slacking off. You're all so weak, can't even carry a few things. Get moving and bring them inside. With that he led the way toward the building entrance. Stop. You can't come in. A familiar feminine doll-like voice rang out from the stairwell. Dao Xiaosu and her close friends blocked the entrance. Mars looked at Dao Xiaosu, not angered but rather with a glint of intrigue in his eyes. An undeniable primal desire flickered deep in his gaze. He licked his lips and stepped forward. I noticed you in the classroom. You're way more appealing than the beauties I've dated before. Very yummy. Disgust filled Dao Xiaosu's eyes. She offered him no courtesy at all. Her expression turned even colder at his words. The term yummy meant delicious. What did this creep take her for? Mars, this is a dormitory. You can't enter? Leave now or I'll report you to the school authorities immediately. Mars shrugged. Your school leaders arranged our accommodation here. Besides, where we come from, gender doesn't matter, we all bunk together. You guys are so backward, not open-minded at all. Move aside. We're tired and want to rest in our dorm. A girl beside Dao Xiaosu snapped, we won't let you in. Get out of here. More students gathered around. Upon learning that Mars and his group intended to stay, they shouted in protest. This is no place for you. Leave now. Mars and his fellow exchange students' expressions darkened. You are utterly arrogant and unreasonable. This is the most uncivilized place I've ever seen. Not letting us in is discrimination and disrespect. FCK? Get lost. Mars turned to Su Mo and the others, barking orders as if commanding his servants. What are you 5 idiots staring at? Get the luggage inside. Don't mind these beaches. Clang. Mars' suitcase was thrown to the ground by someone. Su Mo sat down on it. He gazed calmly at Mars. For friends we have fine wine, for wolves we have shark guns, for ingrates we have whips. We don't welcome ingrates like you. Go back to Zhongmianhua? If you keep causing trouble you'll feel the whip. These words struck a nerve in Mars and his group and they all lost their composure. Everyone clearly understood the metaphor Sumo was implying and couldn't help but chuckle. Even Dao Xiaosu, who had been fuming, let out a snicker. Yet the atmosphere grew even more tense. The air was thick with hostility. Mars glared viciously at Sumo, his fury written all over his face. He snorted heavily like a zebra in spring. He wanted to throw a punch but was held back by a fellow exchange student. After a moment's thought, Mars let out a cold snort. He pulled out the newly issued iPhone 17 Pro Max 1 TB from the school and dialed a number. Hello Mars. Are you settled in the dorm already? Enjoy your college life. Feel free to reach out if there's any issue. Director Fan. We're still at the dormitory entrance. Your students won't let us in there, insulting and cursing us, vandalizing our luggage and even trying to assault us. Is that so? Hold on, he'll be right there. After hanging up, Mars crossed his arms, casting a mocking glance at Sumo and then at those blocking the way. You're all going to get disciplinary action from the school. Dao Xiaosu said casually. Mars, if you insist on coming in, that's fine. Mars' eyes flickered, a triumphant smile spreading across his face. Now you're scared. Where was this attitude earlier? Dao Xiaosu shook her head. There's a condition: you have to go to Thailand first. Once you truly become our sisters, you can stay. Mars' smile froze. He bared his white teeth like a hyena ready to bite. The sound of hurried footsteps approached. Director Fan rushed over with unsteady steps. As soon as he arrived, he shouted, "What's going on? Who dares to stop you from entering? Is there no law here?" Some students shrank back, intimidated by the director's authority. But Sumo, Dao Xiaosu and the others stood their ground without retreating. Mars pointed at Sumo and recounted the incident. Director Fan, is this what you call friendly and proactive? It's been half an hour and we can't even get to our own dorm. And we've been subjected to their shameless insults. This isn't over? It'll expose your school's ugly face on the global internet. Director Fan bowed and scraped, forcing a flattering smile. He occasionally shot Sumo and the others a glare. Student Mars, Student Tom. Please calm down. This is all our fault. They lack experience, I'll teach them properly from now on. As he spoke, he almost gritted his teeth as he urged Sumo and Dao Xiaosu to apologize quickly, or if this blows up, no one can save you. Sumo and the others remained unmoved. Director Fan had no choice but to keep placating Mars. I'm truly sorry for today. Please be magnanimous and let them off this time. It's getting late, go on in. I'll personally take you to the exclusive dining hall for dinner. Mars remained indifferent, saying coldly, that's it. No. Not acceptable. Director Fan sighed helplessly, turning to Sumo and the others. What are you standing there for? Come and apologize. We are a land of civility, we must have the courage to admit our mistakes. Sumo sat on Mars' suitcase, utterly still, showing no intention of apologizing. Dao Xiaosu and the others looked at Director Fan with contempt and disdain. An apology was out of the question. Director Fan was at a loss, wiping his face in frustration. In a fawning tone he said, Student Mars, I'll apologize on their behalf for now. Tomorrow I'll have those who offended you make a deep self-criticism at the school assembly. And our mechanical engineering department will compensate each of you with 20000 for emotional distress. Does that work? Mars reluctantly nodded. Director Fan sighed in relief, then turned to Sumo and the others with a scolding tone. Hurry up and move Student Mars and his friend's luggage inside. You cause me nothing but trouble every day. Sumo remained calm, lifting his head slightly to look at the director. I won't move it. What? Director Fan and Sumo exchanged glances, disbelief flickering in their eyes. Do you dare to refuse? Seeing that Sumo showed no intention of backing down, a smile of rage broke out. All right. If you won't move, there are plenty of people willing to. Time is on our side, just wait and see. Wang Fei, you guys move. The several classmates beside Sumo wore indifferent expressions, their gazes towards Director Fan resembling that of spectators watching a clown. Director Fan was already seething with anger. Now he was completely ignited. His face was contorted with rage. Very well. I tirelessly maintain the school's reputation and international relations, and yet you act like kings. The school does not need students like you who lack manners. With that he pulled out his phone and dialed. Hey, you print out a few expulsion notices for me and bring my seal with you. Yes, Director, I understand. Just on the 8th building side, I will be waiting here, hurry up. After hanging up, Director Fan scanned the entire room. Some students dared not meet his gaze and lowered their heads. Mars and the others wore expressions of superiority, standing there looking at Sumo and the others with taunting eyes. Director Fan's gaze also fell on Sumo. In today's situation he had to set an example to deter others. Otherwise, who in the mechanical engineering department would take him seriously in the future? A brief silence enveloped the surroundings. The atmosphere was heavy as if filled with lead. At this moment on the Ring Road Expressway of Harbin City, a Hongqi car sped at 120 km per hour. Two Dongfeng Mengsha off-road vehicles had already been left far behind. In the backseat, Elder Chen and Elder Li were filled with urgency. Elder Chen kept urging the driver, Xiaogo, hurry up, isn't our speed a bit slow? Step on the gas? Xiaogo was almost driven crazy. Elder Chen, this is a bulletproof vehicle, we aren't supposed to exceed 80 km/h. Going to 120 is already the limit. I've been flooring it since we hit the highway and haven't let up. Suddenly Elder Li said, Old Chen, do you think it might be a bit rude if we just barge in like this? Should we prepare some gifts? Elder Chen pondered for 2 seconds and shook his head. I think it's unnecessary. Compared to the tank made by Master Su and those cutting-edge technologies, any gift would be too insignificant. A university student and a mechanic should just be his surface identities. He is actually a hidden scientific genius in the civilian sector. Behind him there might even be a research team unknown to the public. As Elder Chen spoke, he stroked his chin, his weathered eyes filled with wisdom. I suspect the reason he made that toxic blade tank for Xushuang is that he likely already knows about her connection to me. Using this seemingly casual means to present his top-tier technology to the country. The reason we can pinpoint his phone's IP location is that he doesn't want to take credit for it. He is an admirable recluse in scientific research. For someone who views fame and wealth as mere dirt, we should maintain our admiration. The group seemed to envision Master Su's towering figure rising magnificently in the light. Hao Shuang, sitting in the passenger seat, hadn't thought much of it initially, but after hearing her grandfather she became even more curious about Sumo. She already knew how precious that tank was. Even if it were sold for 30 billion, people would fight over it, not to mention 300 billion or even 3 trillion. If it were put on the global market, certain countries might even go to war over it. It could enable any country to achieve a technological leap. Its value is immeasurable. Master Su only asked for 3 million, which is practically like giving it away. He is truly a peculiar person who does not seek wealth or fame. Thinking of this, Hao Shuang glanced at her phone and Master Su still hadn't replied. It's already noon, he must be so busy. Suddenly a phone rang. If the motherland is invaded, the valiant sons must be self-reliant, drinking this bowl of hometown wine. Elder Li answered the call. A rough voice came from the receiver. Old leader, how are you? Huang, is there something you need? Don't flatter me, just like when I used to be your bodyguard. You can call me Xiao Huang. Ha, you suddenly called her. You must not be thinking of this old man, right? I indeed miss those days. Without your earnest teachings there would be no present me. I heard you and Elder Chen are in Harbin. My troops happen to be nearby for training and I am in the city. Where exactly are you? I will come find you both and consult about the new army's equipment development. Elder Li smiled and said, we are heading to Longbei Technology University to find a scientific talent named Sumo. The core development task of our army's new equipment may fall on this young man. On the other end of the line the voice clearly hesitated for 2 seconds, filled with doubt. Old leader, since he is a talent, couldn't you just invite him to the base? Why do you and Elder Chen need to personally invite him? Elder Li's expression grew serious, his tone earnest. Xiao Huang, this person is extraordinary. We must meet him in person to show our sincerity. Understood. How about this? I am not far from Longbei Technology University. I will go ahead and help you find him. That's fine, but you must pay attention to maintaining decorum. Elder Li gave several instructions before finally feeling at ease to hang up the phone. In the suburbs of Harbin, 6 military vehicles that were about to exit the Ring Road Expressway quickly turned around. They sped towards Longbei Technology University. In the lead vehicle, a rugged-looking middle-aged man activated the intercom and said decisively, everyone listen up. Once we enter the university campus, pay attention to military appearance and discipline. We are going to meet a significant figure whom both General Li and Academician Chen hold in high regard. If anyone messes up, it will be embarrassing for the troops. Weight-bearing training for 80 kilometers. The sound of gasps came from the intercom, chilling to the spine. Hiss, received. Received. On the other side, Chen and Li's special car exited the Ring Road Expressway. The staff at the toll station wiped the sweat from their foreheads as they watched the special car exit the ramp. National Gift Version Bulletproof Hongqi Military Vehicle Escort. Such a display could not be taken lightly. He quickly contacted his superiors to report the situation. The operation of the Ring Road Expressway is directly managed by the Harbin City Administration. The news quickly reached Harbin's chief, Wei Jianzhong. Wei Zhenjiang immediately checked the license plate information and turned pale upon seeing the query results read confidential. It took considerable effort to learn from Huang that Elder Chen and Elder Li were visiting. Wei Zhenjiang leapt from his seat. He quickly walked out of the office. All departments pay attention. A significant figure is visiting our cities. Maintain your positions and ensure there are no mistakes. Secretary Zhu, arrange a vehicle immediately. I need to go to Longbei Technology University. Hurry! The once tranquil city of Harsha suddenly found itself shrouded in an undercurrent of unrest. The number of personnel on duty in the streets increased abruptly. The nerves of staff across various departments were stretched taut as if something monumental was about to descend. Units with insufficient clearance were unable to obtain precise information and could only convene emergency meetings to deliberate on what exactly had transpired. After some investigation, certain units detected an unusual focal point. It seemed that all the major figures had suddenly become intensely concerned with a single location. Longbei University of Science and Technology. It must be. This is already the 15th wave of people inquiring about this university. Something must have happened at this university, or there is someone here drawing the focused attention of the higher-ups like a black hole. Immediately launch a thorough investigation into Longbei University of Science and Technology. Find out exactly what happened today. At Longbei University of Science and Technology, inside the principal's office. Principal Feng Jishing hung up the phone, the confusion in his eyes almost overflowing. The man was on the verge of losing his mind. Having served as principal for 7 or 8 years, this was the first time he had been so utterly bewildered. Within 10 minutes he had received 13 phone calls. Every single caller possessed an extraordinary status and position. The last one in particular came from the upper echelons of the organization, extending beyond the scope of Harsha. Revealing his identity would be enough to terrify anyone. These people didn't state their purpose either. They merely inquired about the events of the university's opening day, the state of the campus construction, and the results of student character development. Principal Feng gently rubbed his chin with his index finger, a contemplative gleam in his eyes. Suddenly a thought struck him. Could it be because of those exchange students? He felt he had grasped a crucial point. He quickly called Director Fan, who was in charge of the exchange student arrangements. Director Fan, how are the arrangements for those 5 new students coming along? Brother-in-law, there's a slight hiccup, but it'll be resolved immediately. A few veteran students spoke rudely to Mars and the others, and they refused to obey my management. I plan to expel a few of the ringleaders on the spot to serve as a warning to others. How many times have I told you address me by my title during work hours? What specific incident requires expulsion? Is it that serious? It's a long story, just rest assured he'll handle it properly. I absolutely won't let the exchange students suffer any grievance. Not only must you ensure the new students don't feel wronged, but the veteran students must not be wronged either. Handle matters with fairness and justice. Got it, brother-in-law. Principal Feng listened to the beeping tone as the call ended. His brow furrowed. For some reason his right eyelid wouldn't stop twitching. Could those big shots really be focusing on these 5 exchange students? Could a few students really cause such a commotion? He hoped Director Fan wouldn't mess things up. After much deliberation he decided to go and see for himself. His brother-in-law was unreliable when it came to getting things done. Several groups of people were converging on Longbei University of Science and Technology from different directions. The fastest wave had already driven their cars into the university parking lot. 3 Audi A6s drifted through the corners, slotting neatly into the parking spaces. The ground was covered with the black scorch marks of tires. Wei Zhenjiang, the chief executive of Harsha, was the first to get out of the car, leading a group of subordinates as they hurriedly strode deep into the campus, drawing the gaze of countless students. Many speculated about the purpose of these people's visit to the school. They all appeared to be important figures. Some meddlesome individuals even followed from a distance, hoping to catch a glimpse of the action. At the entrance of Building 8 in the living quarters, the atmosphere was thick with tension to an extreme degree. A suffocating silence pressed down, making it hard to breathe. Some people near the entrance couldn't help but step back, wanting to flee this place of trouble. The expressions of Mars, Tom, and their 5 companions grew increasingly arrogant. Their mouths curled up to the sky, their chins held high. On their first day at this school they had effectively taught the students a lesson. From now on they believed no one would be foolish enough to defy them. Mars' gaze fell upon Dao Xiaosu, whose expression clearly showed signs of unease. He said with a smirk, "Classmate Xiaosu, you have an old saying here, it's never too late to mend your ways. It's not too late for you to admit your mistake now. I can put in a good word for you with Director Fan." Dao Xiaosu clenched her fists. Despite her trepidation, she stubbornly said, "We didn't do anything wrong, so why should we apologize? TCH. You'll come begging me someday, and when you do it won't be as simple as just apologizing." Mars gave a sinister smile and licked his lips. His gaze swept over Dao Xiaosu with obvious aggression. The girl beside Dao Xiaosu said, "Xiaosu, maybe we should just let it go. We've done our best today." Another person said indignantly, "Anyway, I refuse to live in the same building as these people. If they move in, I'd rather drop out." Just as they were speaking, a flustered voice rang out not far away. "Drop out? None of that. You all get back to your studies properly. If someone hadn't called to inform me, I wouldn't have known you were causing such a rebellion here." The counselor rushed over hastily, first offering an apologetic smile to Director Fan, then nodding at Mars and his group as a greeting. Finally, he looked helplessly at Sumo and Dao Xiaosu. His words, though seemingly scolding, were more like earnest, patient persuasion. "What's wrong with you lot? Didn't I tell you to get along well with the new classmates? Now look what's happened. It's just letting a few people stay in the dorm. It won't cost you an arm and a leg. Just keep your dorm room door closed tight. Can the arm twist the thigh?" At this point, Director Fan frowned, his tone quite dissatisfied. "Teacher Jiao, what do you mean by that? You make it sound like I'm bullying them." The counselor maintained a submissive low-key posture, his words full of pleading. "Director Fan, I also bear some responsibility for today's incident. How about this? Give the ringleaders a minor demerit and deduct my performance bonus for this month as a lesson. Let's just call it even." As he spoke, he looked at Director Fan with pleading eyes, a sight that felt somewhat pathetic. Director Fan, observing the counselor's constant capitulation, recalled Principal Feng's words from the phone call and hesitated for a moment. But Ma's expression turned cold. "No. We're all adults. If you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. A lenient, sweeping it under theory punishment will only embolden the wicked. They must be expelled." Director Fan spread his hands, feigning helplessness, indicating he had to handle it according to the rules. Sumo remained seated on Ma's suitcase the entire time. He casually took out his phone and saw over 20 missed calls and more than 50 unread WeChat messages. Opening the chat window, he saw a stream of messages from Hao Shuang. Looking at the messages, he seemed lost in thought. Finally, he sent his current location with a message attached: "I'm dealing with something here, a bit busy right now, couldn't reply in time." "My bad?" Just then the sound of high heels clicking on the cement floor came from not far away. Director Fan's secretary, dressed in a white blouse and a black pencil skirt with stockings, swayed her hips as she walked over slowly. "Mars. I mean, Director, here's the document you requested." Director Fan took the expulsion notice and pointed at Sumo. "Teacher Jiao, what's this student's name?" "Him. I can't quite recall right now. Maybe I'm hungry because I missed lunch. How about we eat first, take a nap, and handle this in the afternoon?" "Teacher Jiao, do you think such stalling tactics are meaningful?" The counselor gave an awkward smile but stubbornly refused to answer, adopting a defiant attitude. At that moment, Sumo put away his phone and slowly stood up. He looked at Director Fan, his expression calm. "Director Fan, my name is Sumo. Go ahead and expel me. Ink as in one who stays near vermilion gets stained red and one who stays near ink gets stained black. No wonder you're ignorant and unlearned." Director Fan filled in the name and unhesitatingly stamped it with the department seal. The expulsion decision was thus finalized. He then turned to Wang Fei beside him. "What's your name?" The counselor stepped forward, quickly pressing his hand onto the notification form. The obsequious smile on his face had nearly vanished. Though traces of appeasement and plea remained, it was vastly different from before. "Director, 1 is enough. You can't expel any more. It wasn't easy for them to get into college." Director Fan abruptly raised his hand and with a sharp slap, he struck the counselor's hand away. His eyelids lifted slightly. "Are you teaching me how to do my job? When I'm in a good mood, I call you Teacher Jiao. When I'm not, what do you even amount to? Don't want to work at the school anymore, do you? If you can do it, do it. If you can, get lost." The counselor listened to the insults and reprimands, offering a numb smile. Heh. There was no more appeasement or anger on his face, only a strange calm in his eyes. "Director Fan, I can quit, but they haven't done anything wrong. You cannot expel them today no matter what. If I can't even uphold this bit of justice, I don't deserve to be their teacher. You may have more power than me, but don't forget the fairest thing in this world is that everyone has only one life." One life. His voice wasn't loud, but every word was clear. The last 3 words especially were as hard as if chiseled and carved. Director Fan's gaze toward the counselor shifted. It was as if he were seeing him anew. The school's notorious pushover and yes-man had actually learned to bluff. Like a clown. Director Fan chuckled twice and spoke arrogantly. "Jiao, you've grown some nerve. I'm going to expel them today and I'm standing right here. What can anyone do to me? What can anyone do to me? Come on." His voice echoed through the crowd, unbearably grating. More students gathered around. Everyone watched the humiliated counselor, fury blazing in their eyes. Their fists were clenched so tight their knuckles turned white. But Director Fan's authority had long been established. They dared to be angry but not to speak out. Whoever stepped forward might face expulsion. As the counselor had said, getting into college wasn't easy. How could they explain being expelled to their families? The coldness in the counselor's eyes reached its peak, a hint of madness surfacing. Just as he was about to act, Wang Fei suddenly stepped forward. He slowly lifted his head, his gaze remarkably clear. Director, my name is Wang Fei. Expel me. Then another voice followed, my name is Ju Yu. Expel me. Mars let out a sneer. Director Fan, these three are the ringleaders, they must be expelled. Director Fan nodded and wrote down the names Wang Fei and Ju Yu. The next second a slightly hoarse babyish voice timidly chimed in, my name is Dao Xiaosu. Expel me. Countless eyes turned to Dao Xiaosu. Many hadn't caught what was said. Dao Xiaosu's face was full of fear and unease, her eyes flickering with struggle. Finally she took a deep breath and shouted with all her might, my name is Dao Xiaosu. Expel me. After saying this she showed a relieved expression. Director Fan snorted coldly and wrote down the name. Expelling for disobedient students publicly would show the school not to cross him. The surrounding students understood what had happened. Countless eyes burned with fury as they glared at Director Fan and Mars. If looks could kill, Director Fan would have been ground to dust. Everyone's mood was as dark and heavy as the dense black clouds in the sky. Director Fan closed the folder, cleared his throat and said solemnly, the instigators have been dealt with, the expulsion notice will be announced school-wide. From now on take this as a warning. Look up to students with quality and morals and don't follow the example of these for classmates. That's all for today, dismissed. No one moved. No one was willing to leave just like that. The crowd seemed to be brewing something. Director Fan's eyelids twitched, sensing something was off. Suddenly the girl next to Dao Xiaosu shouted, Director, there's me too. My name is Lin Miumiao, expel me. Director Fan glanced at her. You want to be the first to stick your neck out too? Fine, I'll grant your wish. After a slight hesitation he added Lin Miumiao's name to the expulsion list. Then another voice, Director, my name is Wang Yuxian, expel me. Fine, 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 sisterly solidarity is it? I'll grant you all. Despite saying this he didn't add any more names. But a series of voices followed. My name is Zhong Yunhan, expel me. My name is Xie Ruoshui, expel me. My name is An Yunchang, expel me. The atmosphere grew strange. No one backed down. The faint light in their eyes grew brighter. Even the dark clouds in the sky began to disperse. More voices rang out. My name is Zhong Wei, expel me. My name is Xiaoming, expel me. My name is Li Feiyu, expel me. The voices came one after another. Director Fan's scalp tingled. 3 or 5 was one thing, but how could he expel dozens or hundreds? If he expelled all these hundreds of people today, the principal would expel him within the hour and then invite the students back. His narrowed eyes swept over those who had called out their names. Roughly counting, there were already 400 or 500. Some who had just gathered upon learning the situation continued to report their names, begging for expulsion. What was wrong with these people? Stop your foolishness, this matter ends here. Director Fan, sensing he couldn't stay any longer, tried to leave. As he took a step, a hand pressed him heavily to the ground. Director Fan, this isn't over, you can't leave. Director Fan turned his head to see that the one holding his shoulder was Sumo, the first student he had expelled. At the same time the counselor blocked his path. Director, explain yourself before you go. Director Fan halted, his expression flickering like a traffic light, unable to speak. Someone in the crowd shouted, Director Fan, you like expelling people, don't you? Come on, expel all 500 of us. That's right. If you don't expel all of us today, don't think you're leaving here. Either expel everyone or don't expel anyone. Director Fan, you're nothing but a boot-licking lackey. Surrounded tightly by the crowd, Director Fan began to feel afraid. Even when someone verbally attacked him, he had to pretend not to hear. At a loss, Principal Feng emerged slowly from the crowd. Director Fan, Teacher Gao, what's happened here? Seeing Principal Feng appear, Director Fan breathed a sigh of relief and quickly put on an innocent, victimized expression. Principal, here's what happened. I was arranging dormitory assignments for Miles and the other for new students as usual, but Sumo, Dao Xiaosu and the others not only refused to cooperate but also obstructed us in every way, slandering and insulting us in public with foul language. They're practically gangsters. The impact has been extremely damaging. They even challenged the school, demanding we expel them. In all my years I've never heard such a request, so I had no choice but to oblige them. After his speech, some students in the crowd laughed. Director, you're so talented, it's a shame you're not writing novels. Exactly, turning black into white, I've only seen that kind of skill in The Hunchback of Notre Dame. There are 500 or 600 of us watching, go on, keep spinning your story. Principal Feng turned to the counselor. Tell me what happened. The counselor began recounting the sequence of events, also exposing how Director Fan had coerced Dao Xiaosu and her friends into becoming study partners for Mars and the others earlier that day. Principal Feng's face darkened ominously. He shot a fierce glare at Director Fan. With so many eyes watching, even if he wanted to cover it up, it was nearly impossible. Yet recalling the numerous calls from high-profile figures inquiring about the school's situation, Principal Feng grew cautious. His deep-set eyes fixed on Mars and the others. Could these people be the epicenter of the massive upheaval that had rattled Harbin today? It seemed plausible. After all, without significant backing, who would travel across the ocean to be exchange students here? The school had come this far with great difficulty. If this incident ruined its future, Feng Dixing would be a sinner for all eternity. Having realized this, Principal Feng sighed. Just as he was about to speak, his phone rang. He answered to hear an urgent voice. Principal. Chief Wei has arrived and says he wants to see some students. Where are you? I'm at Building 8. Send my regards to Chief Wei, he'll be there immediately. The chief says there's no need. His men just asked the students and the person He's looking for is right at Building 8. It seems there's some kind of conflict, so He's coming over personally with his team. What? Principal Feng hung up, his heart churning with shock. His gaze toward Mars and the others shifted completely. He had thought they merely had some connections, but this was far beyond that. The top priority now was to resolve the matter before the chief arrived, otherwise things would become troublesome. Huff, I already know about this incident. Sumo, since you merely offended the new student's expulsion is too harsh. Each of you will receive a major demerit and be placed on probation. Teacher Jiao mishandled the situation and will have this month's bonus deducted. Director Fan mishandled the situation and will also have his bonus deducted. Student Mars Building 8 is a dormitory and staying there is inconvenient. How about this, you can temporarily stay in the faculty dormitory building. Each of you will have a one-bedroom apartment with a private bathroom fully equipped with air conditioning, water heater, gas stove, range hood, refrigerator, computer and more. What do you 5 think? Mars looked at his 4 companions. They huddled together to discuss in low voices. The faculty dorm is more comfortable. Let's go with that. Each of us gets a one-bedroom apartment. Absolutely. It seems some big shot called the principal and is coming personally to check on us. Our status really works here. I've heard people here are naturally subservient. Seeing it today, it's true. We can deal with those guys later, there will be plenty of opportunities. They chatted among themselves in English, starting quietly but soon speaking without restraint. Everyone present understood English, so the meaning was clear. Principal Feng felt a lump in his throat. All right, that settles it. Everyone disperse. No one is to spread word of today's events. As the matter concluded and the onlooking students began to scatter, Wang Fei muttered under his breath in dissatisfaction, so corrupt. Ju Yu patted him and whispered, at least we got off relatively unscathed. We need to be careful from now on, Mars and his crew will definitely try something. Sumo said calmly, they probably won't have the chance. Wang Fei and Ju Yu looked at him, puzzled by his meaning. Just then a stir rippled through the crowd that hadn't fully dispersed. Moments later a path opened up. The noise quickly faded to hushed whispers. 7 or 8 imposing figures in black administrative jackets strode forward briskly. Wei Jianzhong led the way with a commanding gait, his authoritative aura making it hard for anyone to meet his eyes. Even the subordinates behind him, if taken individually, were figures of considerable stature. Principal Feng and Director Fan recognized the arrivals instantly, their faces filled with shock. They hadn't expected the entire leadership team of Harbin's top administrative body to show up. Had the sky fallen? Waving at Mars and the others, they plastered on smiles and hurried forward to greet them. Mars and his group knew important figures had arrived and quickly followed suit. No matter how arrogant they were, they understood the proper attitude toward such leaders. Since the big shots had come personally to check on them, they had to show some respect. Principal Feng called out warmly from a distance, Chief Wei, your presence honors us. I apologize for not welcoming you properly. Mars and the other exchange students had a minor disagreement with some classmates earlier, but it's been resolved. Sumo, Dao Xiaosu and the others involved have been given demerits and placed on probation. Wei Jianhong's expression remained largely unchanged. However, at the mention of Sumo, a hint of tension flickered in his eyes. He clutched a phone with a constantly lit screen, comparing the photo on it as he scanned the crowd. Principal Feng, extending his hand toward Wei Jianzhong, continued his rambling. Mars and the others have also been accommodated. Their living conditions are on par with the faculty's, so rest assured. Director Fan, slightly bowing in a humble posture, reached out toward the chief secretary for a handshake. Chief Weiss' gaze pierced through the crowd and found the face from the photo. He walked straight past Principal Feng, Director Fan, and Mars, heading directly toward Sumo. Principal Feng and the others were left frozen in place, their outstretched hands hanging midair. Embarrassment was written all over their faces. Wang Fei watched the Harbin big shot approaching and grew uneasy. Damn, he's coming right at us. Dao Xiaosu clenched her fists. We've already been given demerits. What more do they want? Sumo, unflustered, shot them a reassuring glance. It's fine. He's probably looking for me. Under hundreds of astonished gazes, Chief Wei and the entire leadership team gathered before Sumo. The usually stern and imposing Chief Wei seemed transformed, revealing a warm, kind smile with eyes full of concern. Hello, you must be Sumo, right? Sumo remained composed, his expression calm. I am. They shook hands politely. Chief Wei immediately continued, young friend Su, what happened? Are you injured? I'm not injured. Hello, Chief Wei. Sumo had learned of the man's identity from Principal Feng and was somewhat surprised. Chief Wei patted Sumo's arm. Just call me Old Wei. It's good that you're fine. It's a relief that you're unharmed. His tense nerves suddenly relaxed and the heavy weight in his heart dropped. Earlier his secretary had inquired with Sumo's classmates and learned about the conflict and the possibility of violence. Chief Wei had broken out in a cold sweat. Thankfully he had found the person in time and he was unharmed. If Elder Chen and Elder Li saw the person they were looking for being beaten here, or even seriously injured, he would have no way to explain himself and his position as chief would be over. Wang Fei, Ju Yu and Dao Xiaosu stared blankly at the astonishing scene before them, utterly shattered. The unremarkable Sumo was actually on brotherly terms with a top-tier figure like Chief Wei. Waves of sheer shock surged into their mouths, bursting past their tonsils. A surreal, absurd feeling spread through their hearts. The counselor nearby had eyes as wide as bells and ears perked like antennas. His mouth gaped so wide it stretched to his ears. He began to doubt life itself. He knew Sumo's situation best, there was no way he could know such an important person. Yet what was happening before him was so real. Could this not be the real world but a satisfying novel that students love to read? Hundreds of watching students were also numb. Their gazes at Sumo held shock and envy. For anyone let alone to be so favored by Chief Wei, even a slight connection could be leveraged to swagger around. After a brief silence, low murmurs gradually arose from the crowd. Who would have thought that Sumo, this seemingly honest guy, is also playing the underdog? If only ID known Sumo was a rising star, ID have gotten closer to him earlier. Wang Fei and Dao Xiaosu hit the jackpot. With Sumo's connection to Chief Wei, these college years will be smooth sailing. Principal Feng listened to the faint whispers, his expression twisted beyond words. Director Fan was even more embarrassed and terrified, wishing he could find a crack to crawl into. He had stirred up a colossal mess. He had kicked a titanium plate. His future was utterly bleak. Mars and his group stood rigidly in place, having no choice but to tough it out. Just then another stir rippled through the onlookers. The commotion was even more intense than before. It seemed something bigger was coming. Countless eyes turned to look. Make way, please. Division Commander Huang led the guard platoon in swiftly. Wherever they passed, a unique military aura of iron-blooded slaughter permeated the air. Old Wei, didn't expect you to beat me here. Old Huang, you're not late either. Division Commander Huang nodded at Chief Wei, his tiger-like eyes immediately locking onto Sumo. He had studied dozens of photos on the way, already ingrained in his mind. He stepped forward, extending his hand warmly. Sumo, hello. Hello? And you are? Sumo's eyes held respect. Soldiers protected the nation, earning his heartfelt admiration. Division Commander Huang got straight to the point. I'm Huang Long and just an old soldier. Call me Old Huang like Chief Wei does. The old leaders will be here shortly. Sumo's eyes flickered with thought, the name was so familiar. After a moment's recollection, he remembered a text message on his phone from a while back. The nation had awarded Huang Longan's Combined Armored Brigade the title of Model Unit, expanded it into a Combined Armored Division and promoted Huang Longan to Division Commander. That meant the seemingly burly middle-aged man before him was a division commander commanding the Dragon Kingdom's most powerful combat units. No wonder his every move exuded the wild aura of a charging assault. Wait. What did Division Commander Huang mean by the old leaders will be here shortly? Something even bigger was coming. Sumo's heart pounded. He wanted to call Hao Shuang to ask what was happening, but the situation didn't seem suitable. What he thought the onlookers apparently also realized. Everyone was already stunned beyond belief. The cold air pierced their lungs. What kind of being could be called an old leader by such a figure? They dared not imagine. Could Sumo be a lost prince in the mortal world? No way. The Qing dynasty fell long ago. Wang Fei and Dao Xiaosu looked at Sumo with even stranger eyes. They had been in the same class for over 2 years. How had they never noticed Sumo had such abilities? Director Fan's face was ashen. His legs trembled uncontrollably as if dancing some strange jig. Principal Feng stood nearby, afraid to speak. His glance at Director Fan was murderous, mentally cursing every ancestor of Fan's 18 generations. He could have killed him. After Chief Wei and Division Commander Huang chatted warmly with Sumo for a few moments, they asked the counselor and surrounding students about what had just happened. Chief Wei's face fell slightly and he gave Principal Feng a meaningful look that sent chills down the latter's spine. Finally, 2 elderly figures appeared in the distance through the crowd that had already parted. Elder Chen and Elder Li, clad in black Mao suits, strode over quickly. Behind them followed dozens of armed security soldiers. The 2 elders and Hao Shuang came straight to Sumo. Hao Shuang spoke first. Master Suim Hao Shuang. We finally meet. Hello. Let me introduce you, this is. Hao Shuang introduced Elder Chen and Elder Li to Sumo. Actually, Sumo had already recognized them without the introduction. As a mechanical engineering student, how could he not know these 2? They appeared in textbooks more than once. Elder Chen, a giant in the field of army equipment, rode with expertise spanning mechanics, automation, fluid dynamics, aerodynamics, explosion dynamics and more, the most senior academician of the Dragon Science Academy. Recipient of the National Scholar Medal. Elder Li, equally dedicated to army equipment, rode like Chen had published so many academic papers they'd need a truck to carry, also a National Scholar Medal winner holding the rank of Lieutenant General in the Army. The industry respectfully called them the Southern Chen and Northern Li. Chief Wei and Division Commander Huang also chimed in a few words, but the elder's attention remained fixed on Sumo. Elder Chen grasped Sumo's hand excitedly, his eyes full of admiration. Truly, heroes emerge from youth. With talents like you, how can the Dragon Kingdom not rise? Elder Li firmly held Sumo's other hand. Old Chen is right. I thought my life was over until you showed up and made us truly understand what real scientific research is. This isn't the place to talk. Let's go somewhere else. With that, Elder Li exchanged a glance with Elder Chen. The 2 seemed to have discussed it beforehand. Their enthusiasm was oddly intense, flanking Sumo on both sides to escort him away from the scene. Hao Shuang stayed close by. Division Commander Huang gestured to his soldiers and followed. Chief Wei had wanted to exchange a few more words with the 2 elders but saw no chance. He sighed, then turned his gaze to Principal Feng, who stood with his head down like a chastised child, and Director Fan, who was already too terrified to stand. His expression quickly darkened. Secretary Zhu, issue an order immediately. Suspend Principal Feng and Director Fan from their posts. Restrict the travel of all implicated personnel and form a joint investigation team with the Discipline Inspection and the Chief's Office to launch a full-scale probe into Longbei University of Science and Technology. Secretary Zhu's eyes widened in shock as he nodded respectfully. The chief meant business. Such an investigation was bound to stir up massive waves. After a few seconds, Secretary Zhu suddenly remembered something and pointed at Mars and his group of 5. What about them? Chief Wei snorted coldly, his eyes turning icy. A stark contrast to his attitude toward Sumo moments ago. Suspected of bribery, provoking trouble and severely disrupting public order and slandering a national-level talent causing extremely adverse effects, arrest them according to law. After the criminal facts are clarified, a trial date will be set. What? Mars and his group instantly turned green with fear. Their eyes filled with terror. No. It's all a misunderstanding today. We don't want trouble, we haven't broken the law. Secretary Zhu said coldly, whether you've broken the law you can tell the judge in court. Mars was utterly panicked. He swept his gaze around, everyone looked at them as if they were dogs. No one was willing to speak up for them. He grew frantic. Fuck. Brothers, run. With a loud shout, the 5 abandoned their luggage and attempted to flee. But the moment they took a few steps, the surrounding college students who had just been cleared all became excited. There was no room for retreat, only a burning desire to rid the world of evil. In a few moves they subdued Mars and his 4 companions. Soon law enforcement officers arrived at the university and handcuffed them away. Thunderous applause erupted at the scene. Many students seizing the moment threw their water bottles at Director Fan. One person started it and more followed suit. Director Fan was like a rat crossing the street, his glory was gone, replaced by utter disgrace. His face was filled with panic as if he was completely despairing of the impending investigation. The crowd gradually dispersed and Chief Wei and his party also left. Only a group of girls including Dao Xiaosu remained at Building 8. Someone whispered, "Who do you think Sumo really is?" Who knows? But since has earned the appreciation of Elder Chen and Elder Li, his future is boundless. If I could become his girlfriend, then I would. What are you thinking? If Sumo were to choose a girlfriend, it would definitely be someone like Xiaosu. The girls all turned to look at Dao Xiaosu. Her cheeks flushed slightly as she walked into the building. Sumo sat in the back of the Hongqi bulletproof car with Elder Chen on his left and Elder Li on his right. The two elders constantly inquired about his studies and life like elders caring for their own junior, but something felt slightly off. Before he knew it, the Hongqi car had entered the highway. When the door opened and Sumo stepped out, he was dumbfounded. Elder Chen, Elder Li, where? Where is this? He? Elder Li stroked his beard and said with a smile, this is the Northern Army Equipment Road Base. It was too noisy at the school earlier, so we came here to have a proper chat. Sumo's mouth twitched, feeling as if he had been tricked into coming to some facility. Elder Li and Elder Chen's smiles seemed benevolent on the surface, but they were inscrutable. Elder Li, didn't you say at first that we'd just find a quiet place to talk? Was it necessary to speed all the way here on the highway? Elder Chen then spoke up to explain, besides chatting, we also wanted to ask for your advice on some scientific research matters. You'll understand soon enough. Hao Shuang gently tugged at Sumo's sleeve. Don't worry, just relax. General Huang followed beside them with little opportunity to interject. The group walked straight toward the equipment testing area. After passing identity verification and going through a security door, they entered the testing area. The lights came on, revealing the Venom Blade tank lying quietly before them. Elder Chen got straight to the point. Young friends, who, to be honest, we invited you here to ask about this Venom Blade tank. Rest assured you are free to answer or not answer any question. We have absolutely no intention of restricting your freedom. You may leave whenever you wish. Sumo nodded. Please, Elder Chen, ask whatever you'd like. Elder Chen walked to the side of the Venom Blade tank and pressed his hands against its armor. He turned his head, his deep cloudy eyes fixed intently on Sumo. Young friend Su, your team's ability to develop such astonishing army equipment puts us who have spent a lifetime in research to shame. The multitude of technologies within are truly eye-opening. May I ask how many people are on your team and how long it took to develop this tank? Sumo paused, a bit surprised. After all that build-up, that's all he wanted to ask. He scratched his head and said seriously, I don't have a team. If I must say, the team is just me. It took 6 days in total. Hao Shuang placed a repair order and told me it had to be delivered to Sala's hand by the 7th day. As he spoke, he looked at Hao Shuang. Isn't that right? I suppose so. Hao Shuang nodded woodenly. A look of immense doubt arose in Elder Chen and Elder Li's eyes. Could so many cutting-edge technologies really be created by just one young man? Even if he were a once-in-a-century genius, he would need help building a tank. But the change in Sumo's expression just now didn't seem like he was lying. How bizarre. Elder Chen's face twitched and he forced an unnatural smile. Young friend Su, you must be joking. The cutting-edge scientific knowledge contained in this tank is vast as the stars. Even if you started researching at age 3, you couldn't have covered it all by now. Sumo said matter-of-factly, I really did it all by myself. No one else? Elder Li's eyes darted and he said slowly, young friend Su, if what you say is true, then you must be thoroughly familiar with all the technology inside and out of this tank, right? Of course, good. Then let me ask you, what is the main material used in the armor of this tank? You mean this armor? Sumo stepped forward and gently touched the armor module. This is a carbon-olefin polymer. Since it exhibits metallic properties externally, I call it carbon-olefin alloy. It's quite hard, you can test it yourselves. Elder Chen and Elder Li's eyelids twitched and they said in unison, we've tested it. It's indeed very hard. Elder Li continued, you must be familiar with this tank's engine, right? Could you enlighten us on its energy conversion method and power structure? Sumo's expression turned serious and he hesitated for a moment. This question was more complex, he needed to think before speaking. Elder Li and Elder Chen's eyes flickered and the corners of their mouths lifted. The material question was just an appetizer, the engine question was not something anyone could explain just by glancing at it. Sumo cleared his throat and under the unwavering gaze of the two elders began his explanation. This Venom Blade tank uses a hydrogen-powered variable cycle engine with a non-conventional dual outer duct ramjet combination. It can switch between turbojet and turbofan modes by adjusting the geometric structure. The energy conversion starts with hydrogen, which is burned to convert. With this explanation, Elder Li, you surely understand, right? Elder Li felt Sumo's clear gaze on him and his expression stiffened. He swallowed dryly. His neck turned stiffly like a rusty bearing crick-crack toward the side. Old Chen, you must have understood everything. I? More or less? Both could see each other's embarrassment. Sumo's explanation was understandable at first, but later it sounded like gibberish. It wasn't that they didn't understand it was that they had no idea what he was talking about. Logically, given their scientific research expertise, they should have handled it with ease and confidence, but instead they found themselves scrambling and floundering. The two elders' breathing quickened and their blood pressure rose. Elder Lee couldn't bring himself to speak. Elder Chen forced himself to say, "Young friend Su, regarding the engine, we two old men may still need to study it slowly. Let's set that aside for now. Could you reveal what kind of vehicle chip this Venom Blade tank uses?" Sumo said earnestly, "The Venom Blade adopts a dual-form design requiring a vehicle chip with extremely high stability and multitasking capabilities. I made a compromise in process precision, opting for a 1 nanometer precision chip with a 3D spatial stacking structure, foregoing higher precision to find a balance between energy consumption and performance." Elder Chen nodded dizzily and said offhandedly, "Indeed, one must find a balance between energy consumption and performance." "Wait. What did you just say?" Elder Chen felt he had missed some crucial information. A flash of lightning seemed to streak through his eyes. Sumo recalled forging higher precision to find a balance between energy consumption and performance. Elder Chen shook his head and said quickly, "No, not that. The sentence before. 3D spatial stacking structure? No. The one before that. Opting for a 1 nanometer precision chip." Hiss. A sound of sharp intakes of breath filled the scene. Elder Chen and Elder Lee were both stunned. They had discussed the tank's vehicle chip and knew it was extraordinary. They hadn't had the chance to test it yet. They never expected it to reach 1 nanometer. This was one of the few cutting-edge technological fields where Dragon Kingdom had not yet reached the pinnacle. Who could have imagined it would be broken through by a university student? Judging by his tone, he still had room to spare. He had only settled for 1 nanometer for stability and reliability. If applied elsewhere, the precision could reach even higher. Ordinarily, they would have doubted the truth of such words. But with the Venom Blade tank right there, the chip precision would be detected sooner or later. Sumo had no reason to deceive them. Besides, given the top-tier scientific knowledge Sumo had just explained, he was unlikely to be lying. The two elders' blood pressure skyrocketed again, and even their blocked cardiovascular vessels felt cleared. After the shock, boundless joy surged within them. With this man, the Dragon Kingdom's fortune had arrived. A scientific research earthquake was about to begin. The world order would be reshaped by technological power. Hao Shuang didn't understand much about scientific research, but she knew about chip manufacturing precision. Currently, the most advanced mobile phone processors were at 3 nanometers, and the international consensus was that precision could no longer be improved. She never expected Sumo to break through it so effortlessly. Hao Shuang asked in confusion, "How can a 1 nanometer chip which is so complex even be produced?" "No need for a lithography machine. ISNT, it said that the windmill country won't sell their lithography machines to us." Elder Lee suppressed the tremor within him and added, "The windmill country's lithography machine incorporates the world's most advanced semiconductor and light source technologies, yet it can only achieve 3 nanometers. To improve precision further, the coherence problem of EUV extreme ultraviolet light at the 1 nanometer wavelength is simply unsolvable. That's why the global mainstream believes 3 nanometers is the endpoint of chip precision manufacturing. Young friend Su, how did you manage to do it?" Elder Chen and Elder Lee were also pondering this question. Both elders turned to Sumo awaiting his answer. Sumo patiently explained as Elder Lee said, "When EUV extreme ultraviolet light reaches 1 nanometer precision, there is a wavelength coherence problem. So during my research, I applied another type of FEL-free electron laser as the light source, completely resolving the coherence issue. Next, it was necessary to achieve atomic-level precision mechanical control, combining piezoelectric ceramics with laser interferometry. Finally, through inverse lithography technology, I compensated for quantum tunneling and proximity effects at the 1 nanometer process, ultimately completing the 1 nanometer chip manufacturing process. That's the process. The three of you should have understood it." Elder Lee and Elder Chen exchanged glances and sighed in unison. Their eyes held obvious helplessness and frustration. It was like having a delicious feast before them yet being unable to take a bite. They knew this knowledge was priceless, but could only grasp the gist, and many details required relentless research and experiments to comprehend. Hao Shuang hadn't even tried to understand. Noticing the elder's strange expression, she asked curiously, Grandpa Lee, why do you look like that? Is Brother Su's explanation very complicated?" Elder Chen said, "What young friend Su explained, along with the research knowledge on materials and engines he mentioned earlier, may seem complex, but it's actually far from simple. Understanding it fully will likely take a very long time." Elder Lee nodded deeply. "Indeed, some delicacies may look delicious, but not everyone can digest them." Hao Shuang looked at Sumo with even greater astonishment. This was the first time she had heard such words from her grandfather and Grandpa Lee. Sumo thought for a moment and suddenly said, "Elder Lee, do you have paper and a pen?" Yes? Elder Lee pulled a small notebook from his pocket and took a pen from his chest pocket, handing them to Sumo. Sumo thought as he scribbled and drew in the notebook. Elder Lee and Elder Chen looked at the content, their pupils shrinking to tiny black dots trembling wildly in their eye sockets. A series of gusts like wind cannon surged in their throats. Hao Shuang wondered what he was writing and was about to speak, but Elder Chen quickly covered her mouth. He whispered in a slightly trembling voice, "Don't speak, don't disturb." The atmosphere was tinged with a strange tension and excitement. Hao Shuang was completely bewildered. 5 minutes later, Sumo drew a period at the end of the last line. Phew. This is the casting process for carbonene alloy, the core structural diagram of the hydrogen-powered variable cycle engine, and the manufacturing process for the FEL lithography machine. With this, after reading it a few times, you'll understand. As he spoke, he handed the notebook to Elder Chen. Elder Chen's wrist trembled, nearly dropping it. Holding the small notebook with both hands, he was a bit flustered. His face was filled with disbelief. "Young friend Su. You're just giving us these cutting-edge technologies?" Sumo nodded. These weren't particularly advanced technologies, there were many more top-tier innovations awaiting in the future. This was a long-term investment. Elder Chen was stunned at a loss for words. For a scientific researcher, research achievements were their very life. Who would easily give them away without expecting anything in return? Moreover, any one of the 3 technologies written in the notebook would be enough to trigger a massive storm in the international scientific community. Each technology was beyond valuation. Even a single line within could help a world-class research giant break through a bottleneck and enter an entirely new scientific field. Elder Chen swallowed hard and carefully tucked the notebook into his pocket. He felt the pocket had grown heavier. He looked at Elder Lee. Old Lee. Old Lee. Elder Lee was staring blankly at Sumo. When Sumo first arrived, his gaze had been one of scrutiny and doubt. Later it turned to shock and admiration. Now it was genuine respect, even reverence. Who else could possess the breadth of mind and spirit to share priceless research knowledge? Old Lee. Elder Chen nudged Elder Lee. What's wrong? It's a bit stuffy in here, how about we go out for some air? Sure, I was thinking the same thing. Xiao Shuang, you keep chatting with young friend Su, well, step out for a moment. The 2 elders strode briskly out of the equipment testing area. Once outside, Elder Lee carefully pulled out the notebook and randomly opened a page Sumo had written on. It was densely covered with formulas, text and sketches. The 2 of them were almost mesmerized by the content. Old Lee, do you see it? It's so complicated, how could I possibly see it? TSK. I'm not talking about that. Elder Chen closed the notebook and looked at Elder Lee. I mean, do you see why young friend Su wrote this research knowledge for us? This? Elder Lee thought for a moment, his expression gradually turning serious. It seems deliberate. It's as if he intended to teach us these 3 cutting-edge technologies in this seemingly casual way, or rather donate them selfless to the nation. Yes, I was thinking the same thing. Elder Chen let out a long heavy sigh and mused. He guessed that even if we got the Venom Blade tank, we might not be able to fully study it, so he simply taught us the technology himself. This is truly feeding us with a spoon. I don't know what to say anymore. Such priceless research knowledge given away freely without asking for anything in return. Elder Lee's eyes welled with deep emotion. Young friend Su is so young yet has achieved so much. I can fully imagine how difficult his journey of acquiring research knowledge must have been. Working tirelessly, enduring sleepless nights, cutting through thorns, defying death. Risking his life for research. And after achieving results, he hands them over to the nation so readily. He asked for nothing, only that the nation grows strong and no longer bullied by the great powers. At this his eyes were already moist. As fellow researchers they understood the hardship Sumo had endured. His voice was choked with emotion. Such character commands profound respect. Elder Chen wiped the corner of his eye, clenched his fist and declared firmly, we can't let it end here. He may not ask for anything, but we can't give nothing. We must not chill the hearts of researchers. Bonuses and benefits can't be lacking, they must be doubled. Elder Lee shook his head no. Just giving bonuses and benefits isn't enough. Everything else must follow, give what we can and even what we can't. The 2 elders exchanged glances, nodding heavily, their eyes resolute. After concluding their discussion, the 2 elders hurried back to the equipment testing area, reluctant to leave Sumo alone for too long. Upon their return, Elder Chen noticed that Sumo and Hao Shuang were getting along well, a sparkle of delight gleaming in his eyes. Elder Lee let out a heavy sigh, muttering under his breath, if only I had known, I would have wished for my granddaughter to grow up faster. Hao Shuang sought Sumo's advice on operating the Venom Blade tank, and Sumo generously shared his expertise. The Venom Blade tank differs significantly from conventional tanks, especially when activating mobile combat mode. It's not merely about mechanical operation but a comprehensive test of battlefield awareness and coordinated combat. The core principles lie in safe operation, environmental adaptation, and synchronized cooperation. If we set aside actual battlefield engagements, those are roughly the key points to note. Thank you, Brother Su. Hao Shuang's eyes fixed on Su Mo brimmed with admiration and curiosity. He was only a few years older than her, yet he seemed to know everything, not with pretentious posturing but with genuine mastery. Elder Chen chuckled warmly. Xiao Shuang, what were you two chatting about? I was asking Brother Su about some driving techniques. Good, very good. Make sure to learn more from young friend Su in the future. Hao Shuang stole a glance at Su Mo and murmured softly, Grandpa, Brother Su has his own matters to attend to. I can take up too much of his time. Elder Chen laughed heartily, turning his gaze to Su Mo. Young friend Su, from your conversation earlier it sounds like you personally conducted the driving tests for the Venom Blade. Su Mo nodded. Yes, the testing area was rather confined. I only ran a small-scale test to ensure everything was fundamentally sound before having it transported by flatbed. Elder Li proposed, our Northern Border Army equipment road base is vast enough for a thorough test. How about we go all out and assess its driving performance? Elder Chen agreed, adding, we've only seen Xiao Shuang drive it on video. Watching you pilot it in person, young friends, who would surely be a vastly different experience. After speaking, the two elders exchanged an almost imperceptible glance. This was to be their final test of Su Mo. Under normal circumstances, researchers never personally tested the equipment they developed, specialized personnel handled that. If Su Mo could pilot the tank with genuine proficiency combined with the information already gleaned, it would all but confirm that he operated without a research team behind him. Conversely, if his driving was clumsy and less skilled than Hao Shuang's, it would indicate that some hidden force was still propping up his scientific endeavors. As the elders finished speaking, Hao Shuang's eyes lit up with excitement. Brother Su, give it a go. Division Commander Huang, who had been quietly circling the tank, popped his head out from behind. Brother Su, give it a go. Seeing everyone's enthusiasm, Su Mo found it hard to decline. Besides, he was also intrigued. The idea of personally testing the performance limits of his own creation sounded appealing. All right, let's give it a shot. Su Mo paused, turning to Elder Li. Elder Li, since we're conducting a test, would you like the data and visuals synced to your system? Yes. Elder Li's frame stiffened with eagerness. He had been wondering how to broach the subject, and Su Mo had offered unprompted. The more he saw of this young man, the more he liked him. Su Mo pointed to a nearby computer monitor. When I initiate the data stream to the testing area's computer, just click accept. No problem. I'll head into the cockpit first. With that, Su Mo nimbly scaled the tank's hull. Hao Shuang followed suit just as she was about to pull out the keys to unlock the cockpit hatch. Click! Su Mo had already opened the hatch by some unknown method. Accessing the Venom Blade's cockpit can be done via key or facial recognition. Press this button to initiate identity verification. Hao Shuang looked at him expectantly. Brother Su, can I come inside with you for the test? Of course, but it might get a bit intense. Make sure you buckle up. Sure. They climbed into the cockpit one after another. The interior lighting surged on like a tide, revealing a futuristic environment that felt worlds apart from the exterior. Su Mo settled into the zero-gravity driver's seat. He pressed the one-touch start button on the center console. A familiar rumbling engine roar filled the cabin. He raised his hand and swept it through the air before him. A virtual projection panel materialized, encircling his workspace. After a few taps, a signal access request appeared on the testing area's computer desktop. Elder Li, Elder Chen, and Division Commander Huang gathered around the computer and clicked accept. The monitor's display flickered, splitting into two sections. The left side showed the cockpit's interior view while the right displayed the external perspective. Division Commander Huang had already scrutinized the tank's exterior during their conversation, captivated by its sleek, aggressive design. Now seeing the interior, he was even more astounded. If not for the context, one might mistake the cockpit for that of an alien spacecraft. Elder Chen and Elder Li, seeing it for the first time, couldn't tear their eyes away. Elder Chen murmured oldly, look, the 3D virtual projection is touch interactive. The world's best virtual projection tech can only display the image if it can't be touched right. Elder Li, his eyes fixed on another part of the screen, exclaimed with equal fervor, Old Chen, look at the seat. When someone sits in it, it seems to detach mechanically from the tank's body. It's floating. This is true zero gravity. And look at the backrest. When Xiao Shuang sat down, the shoulder, leg, and lumbar supports all adapted automatically. The two elders were so engrossed they barely registered each other's words, exclaiming in rapid succession. Division Commander Huang grew increasingly restless, his covetous expression plain as day. He wished he could take the tank home and sleep beside it every night. A voice came through the monitor, Elder Li, please open the testing area gate. Snapping back to reality, Elderly picked up the remote key from the desk and pressed the button for the gate. The rolling shutter gate rose slowly. Blinding sunlight streamed in, carrying waves of heat. Inside the cockpit, Sumo tapped rapidly across the virtual interface before jabbing firmly at a red button. "Let's try mobile combat mode first." A cold, urgent mechanical voice instantly echoed through the cab. "Current driving mode, developer activating mobile combat mode, intelligent assisted driving off, situational awareness deployed, power authority full, weapon authority full, morph transformation complete, please fasten seatbelt." 3, 2. Hao Shuang in the co-pilot seat hadn't anticipated Sumo's speed. Before she could even settle in, a colossal force was already pressing against her back. Moreover, the sound was slightly different from what she heard during her own drives. A chill ran down her spine and goosebumps erupted across her arms. She hurriedly fastened her seatbelt as fast as possible. The moment the buckle clicked, a terrifying surge of force slammed into her back. As the power transmitted through her body, she could almost hear the cracking of her ribs straining under the pressure. She tried to cry out, but the sound was forced back into her throat, unable to escape. R1. Venom blade. Deploy. The steering wheel before Sumo had already retracted and hidden, replaced by a control lever on the left and a throttle lever on the right. The moment the launch sound rang out, he fiercely gripped the throttle lever. With a sharp clang, he yanked the throttle lever all the way down. The carbon alloy rod slammed against the slot, bending into an arc. Had the material not been exceptionally sturdy, it would have snapped under the force. The poison blade, now transformed into a quadruped mecha, blasted 2 torrents of flame from the vector nozzles on its back. Its colossal steel feet scraped against the floor panel, erupting in dazzling sparks. It shot forth like a bullet from a chamber, vanishing from its spot in an instant. In the blink of an eye, it was outdoors. The 2 elders and Division Commander Huang, seated before their computers, stared in stunned disbelief, utterly bewildered. What had just happened? They had vaguely seen the poison blade transform into a quadruped mecha, flicker with sparks, and then disappear. Division Commander Huang's lips trembled as he let out a strange sound. "I think I just saw an Autobot." Elder Chen took a few deep breaths, calming the turmoil in his heart slightly, and explained, "What you just saw was the mobile combat form of the poison blade tank. It caused a huge sensation at the equipment exhibition today. We had a hard time covering it up." Division Commander Huang's face was utterly contorted, questioning his very existence. "Elder Chen, am I dreaming? A tank turned into a mecha, and one with 4 legs at that. Wait. Could that mecha era everyone's raving about online actually be real?" Elder Chen hesitated, unsure how to explain, and could only nod in the end. He himself couldn't believe it was true, but Sumo had actually made it happen. Disbelief was futile. Division Commander Huang watched Elder Chen nod and was thrown into utter chaos. "Just yesterday we were discussing new models for modernized army operations, and today it's the mecha era. If we could use this thing in next week's Red-Blue exercise, we'd crush them outright." The 3 of them turned their gaze back to the monitor screen. The mecha was already outdoors. Sunlight bathed its surface, casting a sharp gleaming arc over the desert camouflage armor. Surges of electric current rippled through the ultra-large caliber electromagnetic rail on the mecha's shoulder. Its 4 feet stomped the ground with a thunderous rumble. Hao Shuang, having endured the life-threatening launch, recalled the terror of being dominated by the poison blade tank the day before. A flicker of hesitation arose within her. Had she known it would be this intense, she wouldn't have volunteered for the test. Brother Su, the mecha just seemed to fly out of the test area warehouse. Can this thing actually fly? Sumo casually manipulated the control and throttle levers. The mecha's 4 legs unleashed swift, powerful leaps. The poison blade bounced around outdoors like an agile flea, constantly shifting and maneuvering. He patiently answered Hao Shuang's question. "Of course it can't fly. That was just using the afterburners. When the poison blade needs to instantly reposition for a sudden charge or an emergency retreat, this is the way to do it." Sumo spoke calmly, his movements effortless and casual. But the poison blade's leaps generated tremendous shock, rattling Hao Shuang's brains. She felt like her head might be shaken off. Had the cockpit not continuously blasted cool oxygen to alleviate the lack of air, she might have already fainted. Guided by his sense of responsibility to the customer, Sumo continued his earnest instruction. "That last test showed the jump. Now let's focus on the charge. I'll demonstrate and you'll pick it up." As he finished speaking, the vector nozzles on the back of the poison blade, which had just landed, erupted with flames. A surge of immense thrust once again propelled the machine. It made the quadruped mecha seem to teleport. In less than 2 seconds it appeared 100 meters away. "Got it, Xiao Shuang." Hao Shuang shook her head dizzily. Her brains felt like they were being scrambled. She had no mind to learn this. Sumo said patiently, "Then I'll show you one more time. Pay attention to coordinating the left control lever and the right throttle lever properly." Another teleport-like charge demonstration. Hao Shuang's expression was somewhat dazed. Brother Su, maybe you should stop demonstrating this. I'm afraid he'll be dead before I learn it. Sumo said regretfully, then let's test the defense. Watch closely. This form is perfect for positional warfare. Sumo tapped on the virtual panel. The armor modules around the poison blade mecha clicked and clanked. They interlocked and connected. In an instant they assembled into a semicircular shield 6 meters high and 8 meters wide. Electricity crackled across the shield's surface. An opening in the center revealed the electromagnetic rail poised to deliver a devastating strike. The mecha's main body was completely hidden behind the semicircular shield. Enemies from the front and sides could find no gap to attack the main body. Clearly this greatly enhanced its defense. However, it could not move, trading mobility for absolute defense. Hao Shuang also had a full panoramic virtual view before her, allowing her to see everything outside through the virtual panel. Seeing the quadruped mecha transform like this, she quickly covered her mouth with her hand. This? Brother Su, I think I already know the name of this form. It must be called immovable as a mountain, right? Sumo heard the name and said with interest, that's a good name. Let's call it immovable as a mountain from now on. Hao Shuang's lips trembled as she murmured in a daze, I knew it looked familiar. Isn't this Dun Shan? Don't think I can't recognize it just because it's an old version. In the material testing facility, Elder Chen, seeing the mecha could do this, instantly leaped from his chair the moment his bottom touched it. With a single bound he was right in front of the monitor. He wished he could crawl right inside for a closer look. It was already absurd enough that a tank could turn into a quadruped mecha, but then it could also assume an immovable as a mountain form like an impregnable fortress. Elder Li was extremely excited, his heart rate spiking to over 800 beats per minute. His breathing was like a bellows. The semicircular armor is clearly all carbon alloy. This shield can resist not just ordinary guns and cannons but even air-to-ground missiles with depleted uranium armor-piercing warheads. Division Commander Huang beside him was completely numb. His head felt as if someone had filled it with 2 gin of anesthetic, numbing him from the cerebral cortex all the way to the fissures. If even depleted uranium armor-piercing rounds couldn't breach this thing's defenses, it would truly be without peer on the battlefield. Invincible except by nuclear weapons. He wondered about the power of that electromagnetic railgun. It would be perfect if it could be demonstrated just a little. But even if the electromagnetic cannon's power was merely average, its functionality and mobility alone would earn it the title of land warfare's divine shield. On land its defense was unmatched. The 3 men crowded together, heads touching, glued to the screen. Their eyes were fixed on it, not daring to blink, afraid of missing any even more explosive scene. In the cockpit, Sumo earnestly taught Hao Shuang how to deploy and retract the immovable as a mountain form. Hao Shuang also used this opportunity to catch her breath and recover significantly. Steadying herself, she noticed the electromagnetic rail in the center of the virtual screen and asked casually, Brother Su, is this electromagnetic rail used to fire some kind of shell? Sumo revealed a harmless smile. Strictly speaking, it doesn't fire shells. Let's try it and find out. Hao Shuang asked, puzzled, how do we test this? Sumo pointed at the distant shooting range displayed on the virtual screen. Over there should work. With that, the poison blade mech slightly bent its forelegs and then sprang with immense force. The colossal steel body leaped into the air, landing with a thunderous crash a few seconds later. All 4 massive legs plunged into the concrete floor, sending cracks like a spiderweb radiating outward. Sumo looked up at the built-in camera inside the cockpit and asked Elder Li, can we conduct target practice here? Elder Li, startled from his daze, replied woodenly, I suppose so. Great, we'd like to test the main weapon. Go ahead and try, but be prepared for the consequences. All right. With Elder Li's permission, Sumo's 10 fingers rapidly tapped on the virtual screen. A cold voice sounded. Initiating micro full load energy assault mode, medium voltage DC variable frequency module engaged, energy conversion pathway open, charges adsorbing rail energy storage commencing 10:20. Enormous currents of electrical energy surged through the electromagnetic rails on the poison blade mech's shoulders. Countless tiny silver-white specks converged into silver serpents writhing along the rails. The core of the rails under excessive pressure rapidly turned red-hot. Terrifying plasma churned within. Minute charge particles unable to withstand the intense pressure continuously escaped, only to be drawn back in the next moment. As the energy storage intensified, this vast power grew ever more unsettling. Though the poison blade mech's legs were deeply embedded in the concrete, the immense energy vibrations caused it to emit faint creaking sounds. It felt as if the entire body was about to explode. A dazzling silver light enveloped the mech, obscuring the scene outside from view. Watching the terrifying spectacle on the monitor, Elder Li had a premonition that the entire base might be blown up. His already frail body could barely stand. His heart leaped into his throat. He wanted to speak, but his throat produced no sound. His vocal cords seemed to have hidden in fear. Blood vessels crept across Elder Chen's eyes. He gripped the desk, barely able to stay on his feet. He too had researched electromagnetic cannons but had never seen anything like this. Judging by the electrophoresis on the rails, the voltage conservatively exceeded 100,000 volts. It was utterly mind-boggling. Division Commander Huang held his breath, suppressing it tightly, waiting for the energy storage to complete. He could sense that something devastating was coming. Under their watchful eyes, Sumo sat calmly in the cockpit, a hint of fervor concealed in his gaze. This was his first time firing the cannon. A single shot to launch the plan starting from here. Beside him in the co-pilot seat, Hao Shuang's heart raced wildly, her unease reaching its peak. Such immense energy looming overhead felt as if it were pressing on her scalp, threatening to fry her pituitary gland. Her pretty face lost all color, turning as pale as her silver hair. Noticing Hao Shuang's state, Sumo tried to soothe her in a gentle tone. It's a bit nerve-wracking the first time. Don't be afraid, it'll be over soon. Once the energy is released, everything will be fine. Take a deep breath, relax. Hearing this, Hao Shuang's face twitched uncontrollably. My heart has stopped beating and you tell me to take a deep breath. My nerves are snapped, how can I relax? What in the world is this terrifying noise going to do? Is it going to blow up the entire planet? Please wait a moment, I want to get out. I want to get out. The energy accumulation was reaching its final stage. Though it felt like ages, it was only about 10 seconds. 90. 100. Energy storage complete. 3 consecutive strikes can be launched against the target. The voice finished. A pulsating crosshair appeared on the main virtual display in the cockpit. As the crosshair moved, the electromagnetic rails on the poison blade mech's shoulders followed suit, aiming. The wild arcs of electricity vaguely coalesced into the shape of an arrow. The moment the crosshair locked onto an abandoned tank target, Sumo's left thumb flipped open the safety catch on the control stick with a snap and pressed firmly on the button. He pressed so hard he nearly broke his fingertip. Xiao Shuang watched closely, this shot will be spectacular. ZZZZ, a violent current surged from the rails in an instant. A silver-white arc over 5 meters long shot forth, too fast for anyone's eyes to follow. In a flash it struck the target tank. Boom! A thunderous blast echoed across the shooting range. It sounded as if a massive meteorite had crashed into the ground. A blazing fireball erupted at the tank's position. Flames mingling with scattered arcs of electricity spread in all directions. The blinding light obscured half the sky. Billowing waves of fire scorched the heavens red, gradually forming a small mushroom cloud that rose and expanded. Tiny arcs of electricity dispersed through the air, wandering everywhere like a silver rain falling around the mushroom cloud. The shockwave shook the entire base. The security and emergency response departments mobilized fully. Disaster alarms blared throughout the base. Woo! A massive ground tremor detected at the base, suspected tactical nuclear strike. Further attacks cannot be ruled out. All personnel immediately take shelter in air raid shelters. Alert! 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 Take cover immediately. A wave of panic swept through the base. No one had expected, while working peacefully, to be suddenly hit by an unidentified tactical nuclear strike. This was the heartland of the Dragon Kingdom. What force would be so audacious as to risk annihilation? If the culprit were found, they would be flayed alive. People rushed out from every department, sprinting toward the shelters. Once outside, they looked up at the sky, their pupils dilating in shock. Their legs gave way from sheer terror. Had it not been for their professional training, they would have been unable to walk. The same earth-shattering commotion was felt throughout Tianan City, which bordered the Northern Army Equipment Road base. At the moment of the explosion, piercing disaster alarms sounded over the city. Many people looked out their windows and saw the mushroom cloud rising on the horizon. Their hearts sank in despair. A nuclear bomb detonating so close meant that even if they survived the initial blast, severe radiation would claim their lives within months. But who would willingly die when survival was possible? The instinct to live drove more people to flee their workplaces, schools and homes in a desperate attempt to escape. After the disaster alarm ended, broadcast announcements immediately followed. Our city is suspected to have been hit by a tactical nuclear strike. According to predictions, the next wave may arrive in 5 minutes. Please remain calm and do not panic. All personnel proceed to the nearest underground parking lots and shopping malls marked as civil air defense shelters. The broadcast looped continuously. Dense crowds filled the streets. Law enforcement and firefighters were fully deployed to maintain order. Alarms echoed through every alley and avenue. Even with only 5 minutes, they had to do everything possible to save as many lives as they could. At the Northern Border Army Equipment Road base in the material testing area, Old Lee heard the alarm and instantly realized something was wrong. He slapped his thigh abruptly. Disaster. With such a commotion, not just the entire base but even the nearby Tianan city would be affected, and even the entire Dragon Kingdom would feel the tremors. Old Chen, you report to the higher-ups immediately. I need to contact Tianan city to explain the situation. The two elders coordinated at once, each dialing their phones. A few minutes later, after hanging up, the situation gradually subsided. The base resumed operations under Old Lee's direction. Old Lee, Old Chen and Division Commander Huang looked at the monitor. On the screen, the mushroom cloud still lingered. The abandoned tank target over 10 kilometers away had long turned to ash. The nearby tank targets were also obliterated. Old Lee rubbed his brow and suggested, Old Chen, Xiao Huang, how about we go to the scene? Yes, bring the nuclear radiation suits, they might be useful. The three strode out of the testing area. In the cockpit of the poisoned blade, Hao Shuang sat collapsed in her seat, drained of all energy by that single shot. Her forehead was covered in sweat. Her mind had gone blank, unable to think. That mushroom cloud seemed to hang over her head, blasting her thoughts into a daze. Initially she had only wanted to repair the Tank 300. Now the modified vehicle had fired a shot that created a mushroom cloud. Unbelievable. Even novels wouldn't dare write such a thing. Sumo fired the shot, his brow relaxing. He turned to the motionless Hao Shuang and asked, how do you feel? Hao Shuang replied with lingering fear that shot was too powerful, him completely drained. Sumo smiled and said, want to go check the impact point? Sure. Sumo shoved the control lever forward. With a clang he floored the throttle. The mecha's foreleg swung wildly like a runaway stallion racing across the ground. A massive cloud of dust trailed behind. Each step left a huge footprint, the ground rumbling. Hao Shuang glanced at the speedometer, her delicate body trembling, the plump softness of her chest nearly bursting from her collar. The color that had just returned to her pretty face vanished again. 350 km/h. Su GEISNT, our speed a bit too fast. Safety first on the road. Maybe we should slow down a bit. Sumo looked at Hao Shuang. There's no need to worry about safety. The current four-legged running mode is the slowest one, it can easily handle any terrain. Don't you remember? You were the one who asked for good off-road capability after the modification. Hao Shuang's expression twitched, unsure what to say. She had indeed hoped for good off-road performance, but she never imagined it would mean galloping on for legs like this. As they sped toward the impact point, an armed helicopter in the sky also flew toward the explosion center. Division Commander Huang piloted the G-21 himself with Old Chen and Old Lee in the back. Old Chen praised Division Commander Huang. I didn't know you could fly a helicopter and so well. Huang replied modestly, it's just passable. Before I served as Old Lee's bodyguard, I was in a flight squadron. I can fly both helicopters and small planes, and I even won first prize in a few flying competitions. He. Old Chen gave a thumbs up. Impressive. A hint of pride flickered in Huang's eyes, though his words remained humble. Old Lee's cloudy eyes scanned the ground below. A billowing cloud of dust caught their attention. What's that? At his reminder, both Old Chen and Huang looked down. Something on the ground was racing at an incredible speed, kicking up dust that nearly obscured the entire sky. Huang glanced and guessed casually, looks like some kind of horse running. Old Chen immediately said, why is that horse faster than our helicopter? Huang checked the current speed. We're flying at 300 km/h now. My god, what kind of horse is that fast? Saying this, Huang pulled the control lever to increase the rotor tilt for more speed. But even after accelerating, the thing below pulled even farther ahead. Huang's eyes trembled with disbelief, a wave of frustration washing over him. This is impossible. Not even a BMW, a Hummer, a big shot, or a galloping horse, a fighting spirit could run this fast. What in the world is that? Seeing it get even further away, Huang pushed the helicopter to chase. After a long pursuit, the thing finally stopped and the dust settled. Only then did Huang and the others see clearly, it was the poison blade mecha. No one had imagined that the seemingly clumsy mecha could sprint at such a speed. It was utterly absurd. Old Chen wondered, since the poison blade can run this fast, why does it even need a tank form? Isn't this form versatile enough? Old Lee said, we can't fathom the mind of a genius like Young Su. The G-21 landed smoothly beside the poison blade tank. After the rotor stopped spinning, the three had already changed into white nuclear radiation suits and disembarked. Seeing the vast endless black pit ahead, Old Lee was dumbfounded. He looked at Old Chen with a bewildered gaze. Old Chen, where are we? This pit. Old Chen's eyes shook as he said urgently, this is the target range of your Northern Border Army Equipment Road base. Where else could it be? This pit is the crater from that random shot Young Su and the others fired. Old Lee knew that, but the sight was too shocking to accept. The black crater was half the size of a football field, its depth unfathomable. One might think a comet had struck here, causing the extinction of the dinosaurs. Tiny arcs of electricity in the air occasionally crackled against their scalp, sending tingling sensations through their brain cells. Old Chen, why are you all wearing protective suits? There's no nuclear radiation here, just a bit of ionization, low intensity, harmless. Sumo and Hao Shuang had already exited the mecha and were walking toward them. Hearing this, Old Chen checked the instrument panel on his suit. Indeed, no radiation. He pulled off his helmet. Old Li stepped forward, grabbing Sumo's arm excitedly. Young Su, it's a good thing you aimed at the target range. If you'd pointed elsewhere, it would have been a disaster. The power is immense. Old Li added, the mushroom cloud hasn't fully dissipated yet. That shot just now was felt across the entire Dragon Kingdom. The higher-ups called to ask if someone had detonated a tactical nuke. A hint of embarrassment flickered across Sumo's face. He hadn't thought it through at the time. Now he realized it might have caused a huge stir. He'd have to be more careful testing weapons next time. Division Commander Huang said excitedly, Brother Su, does that shot have a name? Sumo shook his head, about to speak, but Hao Shuang cut in, yes it does. That shot was called the Infernal Unrivaled Superheated Wave Cannon. Huang's body trembled, his blood running hot. That name is quite domineering. Over the next while, Old Chen and Old Li conducted a brief survey of the crater. They collected soil samples for laboratory analysis. After finishing, Division Commander Huang started the G-21 and flew Old Chen and Old Li back to the base's road area. Sumo and Hao Shuang returned to the cockpit. With a series of operations, the poison blade transformed back into tank mode. The control lever became a steering wheel and the throttle lever became a gas pedal. Sumo stomped on the accelerator, the tracks roaring into rotation. The speed was so high the bearings nearly spun out. The tank burst forward. The familiar force slammed into Hao Shuang, but she was mentally prepared this time, or it would have been another ordeal. Once the acceleration load eased, Hao Shuang's tense nerves relaxed slightly. The next second, Sumo's voice rang out, Xiao Shuang, hold on tight, we're about to speed up. Who? Hao Shuang was startled, confused. About to speed up? Then what had they been doing just now? Before she could think, Sumo pressed a finger on the afterburner button on the virtual screen. A cold voice echoed in the cockpit. Current form, tank assault mode, variable cycle, turbofan, power output mode, switching, diverter valve opening, potential energy lock, disengaging, stage 1 afterburner, engage. As the final word echoed, the two vector nozzles at the tank's rear spewed out a 100-meter trail of flames. The fire's hue shifted from red to blue, eventually settling into orange. Mac diamonds densely lined the exhaust. A ferocious thrust slammed into the poison blade tank. In the cockpit, Sumo and Hao Shuang's vision went black as they experienced momentary blackout. Fortunately, the life support system activated, swiftly increasing oxygen supply and restoring their sight. Their bodies were pressed deep into the seats, almost entirely enveloped. Every point of contact between the seats and their bodies employed a dual approach of acupoint stimulation and mechanical massage, minimizing the discomfort from acceleration and reducing the impact force to its lowest. The poison blade tank speed surged, its tracks spinning wildly. The moment Hao Shuang regained her vision, her eyes caught the tank's data panel on the virtual screen. A distorted voice exclaimed, current speed 730 km/h. Sususuji were about to take off? Describing it as taking off isn't accurate if it's merely ground effect flight. We're really flying. Hao Shuang's trembling gaze pierced through the icons around the virtual panel to the external scene beyond. Her heart nearly stopped. Her blood pressure instantly spiked to 998. As the poison blade tank accelerated, an unknown current of air formed beneath it, lifting the entire chassis. The track ceased to turn. It hovered a meter above the ground in ground effect flight. The flames at the tank's rear seemed to burn through the very space. Hao Shuang was losing her mind. She swore this was the first time she'd seen a tank flying. Sumo warned again, attention, we're about to truly accelerate. Again. She thought the acceleration was over, but it had only just begun. Before Hao Shuang could brace herself, a more violent thrust crashed into her. It felt like 1,000 jin of weight had been piled onto her. She couldn't take it. Which time was the real acceleration? Could she at least understand before dying? Sumo was enduring the same force, but he managed precise operations despite the pressure. The zero-gravity seat and the cockpit's health maintenance system could protect them to some extent, so there was no need to worry. As the mechanical voice announced secondary afterburner engage, a thunderous boom erupted from outside the tank. Hao Shuang looked around the tank, her eyes nearly bursting. A visible translucent cone of vapor shrouded the tank's rear section. This is a sonic boom cloud. By the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother, we've broken the sound barrier. Hao Shuang felt she might be dying, and everything she saw was a pre-death hallucination. A tank taking off was one thing, but breaking the sound barrier too. Where was the logic? Newton, is your coffin lid still secure? Come out and see this world, it's madness. Sumo's hands continued without pause. He tapped the virtual buttons twice more. Third stage afterburner engage. Fourth stage afterburner engage. An even greater force poured into the poison blade tank. The seatbacks transmitted the power into Sumo and Hao Shuang's bodies. They were nearly flattened into two-dimensional beings. All their blood was forced to their backs, almost spurting from their tailbones. Hao Shuang, giving it her all, used her last ounce of strength to glance at the current speed on the virtual panel. Her brain buzzed, her cerebral cortex feeling as if struck head-on by a 100-ton heavy truck. She couldn't hold it together. Current speed Mach 4. Give it up, Azu. The outside is all sonic boom clouds. This speed is like opening the 8 gates. If we keep going, we'll crash into the finale. Sumo had also reached his limit. Without professional training, even with a good physique and technological assistance, he couldn't withstand greater acceleration loads. Achieving this top speed in the first test satisfied Sumo. The poison blade tank flew close to the ground, racing toward the base's road zone. At the Northern Frontier Army Equipment Road Base's Air Defense Warning Center, 2 soldiers on duty carefully monitored the radar charts for any changes. They dared not slack off. There had been a precedent of an Eagle Country reconnaissance drone intrusion, but they had detected it immediately and dispatched fighters to intercept and drive it away. Today felt off. They had to be extra vigilant. Beep beep beep. Alert! Alert! Array no. 9's phased radar has detected an unidentified flying object attempting a low-altitude penetration from the southeast. It's flying at Mach 4 with a significant heat signature. Initial assessment: supersonic cruise missile. Possibility of nuclear warhead not ruled out. Estimated arrival in 5 minutes. Take immediate shelter. Before the 2 soldiers could react, a piercing air raid siren echoed over the base again. Many base staff looked annoyed. Here we go again. This must be another false alarm. What's going on today? As they spoke, the loudspeaker crackled to life. This is the Base Air Defense Warning Center. Radar has detected a suspected nuclear-capable cruise missile rapidly approaching our location. All personnel proceed immediately to the nearest shelter. This time everyone took it seriously. They dropped their work and ran. Previous incidents were false alarms, but this came from the Air Defense Department. It couldn't be wrong. In an instant, the entire base's personnel converged into a tide, flooding into the shelters. Old Lee was still on the helicopter when his phone rang. Glancing at the caller ID, he saw a red emergency prefix. He answered quickly. Reporting to Old Lee, this is the Base Air Defense Center. A minute ago we detected a Mach 4 cruise missile approaching the base from the southeast. It's flying almost at ground level to evade our radar. It might be carrying a nuclear warhead. Hearing this torrent of words, Old Lee shot up from his seat. His face was etched with gravity. Mach 4. And possibly a nuclear warhead. The only cruise missiles that can reach that speed are Bear Country's Zircon, Eagle Country's Wave Rider, and our Longsword. It has to be Eagle or Bear Country. Bear Country is in the midst of war. They wouldn't bother with this. Could it be Eagle Country? Have they grown so bold as to trigger S3? An urgent voice crackled through the phone again. The tension was palpable even through the receiver. The cruise missile will reach the base in under 5 minutes. I request immediate launch of the Army Flag air defense missile to shoot it down. Old Lee's hand gripping the phone was slightly sweaty. At such a moment, clarity was paramount. He couldn't act blindly. After 2 seconds of hesitation, an even more agitated voice came through the phone. How dare Eagle Country make a move against us? A mere spark dares to compete with the sun and moon. Old Lee, just give the order. Let our missiles strike them down hard. Time was pressing, leaving no room for further deliberation. Old Lee was about to give the order. Old Lee, hold on a moment. Don't you think there's a possibility that cruise missile could be the poison blade driven by young Frensu? Hearing this, Old Lee paused. Could the poison blade reach Mach 4? Yet recalling the countless incredible feats Sumo had accomplished, it didn't seem entirely impossible. Old Chen immediately dialed Hao Shuang. Xiao Shuang, where are you now? On our way back to the base's road zone, roughly southeast of the base. What's your current speed? Grandpa, you might not believe me if I told you. How about you take a guess? Hearing southeast, Old Chen had a vague hunch. His face twitched as he said in a peculiar tone, I'd say Mach 4. Who? Grandpa, are you cheating? That's spot on. This poison blade tank can do ground effect flight after engaging afterburners. It's incredible. All right, let's talk when you're back at the base. Old Chen hung up and Old Lee's phone rang again with the Air Defense Center. Old Lee. The missile launch safety lock is disengaged. My finger is on the button. Just waiting for your word. Do it. Old Lee wiped the sweat from his brow, took a deep breath and shouted, stop. Cancel the interception immediately. That's our tank, friendly forces. Notify the base it was just an air defense drill, normal operations, no need for alarm. At the Air Defense Center, 2 soldiers on duty listened to the beep 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 of the disconnected call, puzzled. The air grew still. After a few seconds they muttered to themselves, the radar clearly identified it as a cruise missile. How could it be a tank? How can a tank fly close to the ground like a cruise missile, even reaching Mach 4? Maybe Old Lee misspoke. Perhaps it's one of our own cruise missiles. Anyway, let's hurry and send the notification, false alarm. He. After a few seconds of hesitation they quickly executed the order. The base's loudspeakers blared and many who had rushed to the bomb shelters were left speechless. Time and again they were scared half to death. What on earth was going on? 5 minutes later the poison blade tank returned to the base. Sumo executed a drift into the parking spot, stopping precisely in the center. Many people on a nearby building watched the ferocious tank, guessing that the 2 alarms had been caused by this behemoth. Hao Shuang hesitated, then said, Brother Su, could you teach me that tank drift into a turn? I've seen it in movies, it's so cool. Sure, since Old Lee and the others haven't returned yet, we can practice a bit. Sumo finished speaking, stood up and swapped seats with Hao Shuang. Fortunately the cockpit was spacious, making the swap easy. Hao Shuang began practicing driving the poison blade tank in the area. Sumo, with the air of a master teacher, patiently instructed to develop good driving skills. First, turn off the assisted driving. The more you use it, the worse your technique gets. Okay. The poison blade tank maneuvered in and out of the parking lot, shifting back and forth. The engine roared like a low, deep lion, echoing across the lot. People on the distant office building pressed against the glass, watching with awe in their eyes. The base had rules. Nothing seen or heard here could be leaked outside, and personal phones were forbidden within the base. Everyone had signed non-disclosure agreements. If they could snap a photo with their phones and post it on Douyin or Kuaishou, it would surely trend. Someone suddenly recalled a viral video from last night on Douyin where the tank looked just like this one. Murmurs filled the building. Our country truly keeps its secrets. When that tank came back from the range, I vaguely saw it flying close to the ground. So incredible. I'm also a tank researcher, but seeing this one I feel like my brain isn't fully developed and my cerebellum is completely underdeveloped. Compared to the person who developed this tank, I'm just a fraud, even boiled I'd be nothing but foam. Several dozen minutes later Hao Shuang could drive proficiently in basic mode. Reverse parking, parallel parking, sterns and hill starts were all a breeze. Sumo marveled inwardly, this was a naturally gifted driver. A talent bestowed by heaven. Sumo's own skill came from knowing every inch of the tank inside out. When driving he felt a unity with the machine due to his familiarity. But this was only Hao Shuang's first few times and he had already reached this level. Impressive. No wonder he loved off-roading. With such talent he could easily steal the show. The helicopter carrying Old Lee and the others finally returned to the base. When the 2 elders saw Sumo again, their eyes were filled with admiration. Old Lee grasped Sumo's hand and said firmly, young friend Su, I'm an old man with 1 foot in the grave. To meet a research talent like you in my final days, heaven has been kind to me. Old Chen also held the other hand, his face brimming with excitement. With someone like you in Dragon Country, how can we not rise? This old man can die with my eyes closed now. Feeling the sincerity and openness in the elder's words, Sumo replied with equal vigor, Elder Lee, Elder Chen. If ever you need my help, just call on me, I'll give my all. The elders' faces lit up at his words. But just as they were about to speak, Sumo quickly added, however, strictly speaking, I'm not a researcher. To be honest, I'm just an amateur repairman. Old Lee's expression froze, then he burst into laughter, his beard trembling. This repairman of yours outshines all of us. Young friend Su, have you ever thought about working in a research base? I happen to need a researcher. If you join, name any condition you want. Before Sumo could respond, Old Chen from the other side immediately chimed in, young friend Su, my Longbei Research Institute is currently the strongest research unit in Dragon Country's Army armored vehicle field. We're urgently hiring a researcher like you. Just nod and you can set any benefits you like. Even if you want to be the top director, I'll arrange it immediately. Sumo was at a loss for how to respond. Agreeing to either side seemed unfair to the other. What a dilemma. Old Lee quickly added, whatever Old Chen offers, I'll double unconditionally. I can also arrange the top director position for you immediately. Old Chen hurriedly followed up, what Old Lee offers, I'll triple. The 2 elders exchanged glances, their eyes sharp like needle points meeting. I'll quadruple. I'll quintuple. All right, old Chen, you old rascal, you're set on competing with me, aren't you? I'll go 10 times. 10 times. I'll go all out, 20 times.